Hello and welcome to another edition of Tuesday Night Jake. Yeah! It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday night and the moon is bright. We're going to have some fun. I'll show you how it's done. Tuesday Night Jake. One more time. It's Tuesday night. What? And the moon is bright. Oh, yeah. We're going to have some fun. I'll show you how it's done. Tuesday Night Jake. What? Titty in the motherfucking slut. What? All right. That's right. Back at you for another Tuesday night stream. Catching some super chat love before the stream even starts. Zach W. says, thanks, Jake. I'm surrounded by science, sports cucks at work and have nobody to talk to about how fake and scripted everything is. P.S. Raw milk was half off today, so here's my change. You are the man. Thank you very much, Zach W. And of course, as I start the stream, they down throttle me, right? Of course, my internet connection always turns to liquid shit when I start streaming. So Zach, and I also had one from Pop Fried 420 who also sent in a super chat donation. So thank you to everybody getting us started today with donations and whatnot. I appreciate that. All right. So how is everybody doing? Tonight, I thought we would switch things up instead of talking about the world stage and Donald Trump and Katy Perry not going to space. Instead of that, I thought we'd switch it up tonight and we would talk about something a little different, but then I'll tie it into stuff that I've talked about before. So it'll be like something new, something old, and hopefully everyone learns something new. That's what I was thinking tonight. So it should be an interesting show. All right. Infinite Jack says hi. Kevilev Do QC says bruh. Clay on the plane says Jake the a-hole for Prez. John Janess with a laughing emoji. That's what I like to see. People laughing right out of the gate. Like Yeti Man here. All right. D Cran, you didn't miss anything, bro. We just kicked it off. You are just in time. In fact, beings, I don't think I did this on the last stream, then perhaps now is a good time for a little bit of what's up. There you go. Little bit of what's up action for you. Getting us started. What up, gringo, indeed. Phew. It's like I had that one stored up inside and it needed to come out. Now I feel better. You know, it's like one of those like quadruple sneezes that you have built up where you're like, Rahoo! Rahoo! Right? And you do the 4 sneezes, and then it's like, then afterward, you feel great. Like, what is that? What's up with the random quadruple sneeze that you get every once in a while? Remember when around like 2020, 2021, where if you had a quadruple sneeze, somebody'd be like, "You're gonna spread germs! Killer germs are gonna kill everyone because you sneezed! Put a mask over your face, please! If you're gonna sneeze, wear a mask, please!" Remember? It wasn't that long ago. All right. Got a couple super chats rolling in from Izzy Tech. Said Donald Trump intro. Donald Trump intro. Doot, 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 doot. It's fun to stay at the YMCA. My favorite song is freaking YMCA. Yay. They've got young men there, and you know I love young men. I like to hang out with all the boys. Young men. You know that I love young men, so I will go there to the YMCA. It makes me happy. And then I do my little dance, and you know I love to dance just like this right here. Now it's fun to freaking stay at freaking. All right. There you go. Getting it out of the way early. Now I see Simone's sending a donation. Now watch, Simone will ask that I sing that song, and I'll have already done it. Nope. She says, "Hi, Jake, Ralphie, and good people." All right. Simone, thank you very much. Getting us started with some super chat love tonight. I feel the love in the air already. And of course, you guys are the best audience. And this is the best YouTube channel. So it all works out. All right. Yes. When I came up with that version of YMCA, you know, the song YMCA, the lyrics does say young man quite a bit. If you go look up the official lyrics, it mentions young man over and over again many times. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to like overemphasize the young man part and make the song like 10 times more gay than it was before. So I took an already gay song, made it 10 times more gay. How? By overemphasizing the young men part. And then Trump's dance, which is also super gay, right? When you add the extra gay version of YMCA, Trump's dance, overemphasize the young men, you get people paying you to sing the gayest song and do the gayest dance ever. How many guys you know get paid by request to sing and perform the gayest, stupidest song ever? Yeah. All right. There's more where that came from. All right. Somebody said, "Dude, I got blocked." The dude I got blocked guy. I can see you right here. So this account that you're talking with didn't get blocked. All right. And here's Zane, guy who told me to cover this topic. He was like, "Hey, have you seen that video about the or he basically just told me, "Hey, Jake, you know, have you heard about the code that people see in a laser after they take a hit of DMT?" And I was like, "Yes, I have seen that. And that would be a fun video to review and cover, because I'm sure a lot of you haven't seen it, and I'm sure a lot of you have. So we'll take a popular video that many of you have seen, and then the ones of you who haven't seen it, it's an interesting video. And so I thought we would start today by reviewing the seeing of the matrix code, if you will, within a laser beam while you're how do I put this, tripping your balls off on the Deemsters. And what does it mean? Oh, I'll let you know what I think it means. But Lemming in a Shiny Metal Box says, good evening, Sir Jake. Delighted to see you and look forward to following the White Rabbit into the revelation and realm of the unexpected during this stream. That's a good way of putting it. I can tell you've probably tampered with a psychedelic or two. So tonight, some of these concepts we're going to discuss. If you've tampered with different psychedelics and you've left this realm and your spirit has traveled into different realms and realities, well, then some of these concepts I'm going to talk about tonight won't seem far-fetched or anything, and it won't be anything too shocking. In fact, it'll be stuff you probably have already thought about or probably already knew. But for those of you who haven't really delved into the psychedelic world and had a profound psychedelic journey, well, you might have a harder time digesting some of this information the same way. So what I'm going to attempt to do is explain it to the people who haven't had the profound psychedelic trip, and also put it in a way that the people who have had these sort of profound psychedelic journeys can be like, yes, this guy knows what's up, right? So I got to try to cater to both audiences here, the ones who've had the breakthroughs and the ones who have not, who might think it's all just a bunch of drug-induced gobbledygook, which it is not. All right. So thank you very much, Lemming in a Shiny Metal Box, getting us started with some Super Chat love tonight as well. All right. So with that said, let's go ahead and break on through to the other side. We'll start with the very popular video from Comedy Central's animated series, Tales from the Trip. I thought this would be a fun way to start the show. And it's about a comedian, his first time smoking this psychedelic compound. And it might be copyrighted. So I'm thinking if I speed it up a little bit and I don't have the video taking up the whole screen, perhaps I can get away with it. So I don't know if this video is copyrighted or not, but just in case, I'm going to have to take a few precautions, if you know what I'm saying. So plenty of you guys have probably seen this video. It's got 3.7 million views. All right. Thinking we'll do this, and we'll do this. That's what we'll do. And we'll put it at 1.1. There we go.
In this computer chip city that looked very familiar. My name is Shane Moss, and this is the story of the first time that I smoked DMT. So this was several years ago. I was in Dallas, Texas. I was doing shows. A comic came up to me afterwards, and he was like, hey, have you ever smoked DMT before? I was like, no, never heard of it. And he's like, well, you'd like it. You're a trippy dude. So he takes me to this guy's house. The guy's like, have you ever done mushrooms before? And I was like, oh, yeah, tons of mushrooms. He's like, okay, well, nothing like mushrooms.
Okay, I can see they're messing with the quality of my stream right now. Let me stop sharing and see if we can wait just a minute for the stream quality to improve. It makes me think maybe I should have like restarted my whole computer and stuff. This is a brand new Mac, and my internet connection should be pretty good. But every once in a while, once I get streaming, when I'm showing videos, I get down throttled like shit, which is no good. Maybe if I get rid of a few tabs, maybe that'll help. Nope, hasn't helped at all. Great. Good times. Well, I guess we're just gonna have to try and trudge along. I don't know what else to do other than like back out and start my whole computer over. But if I do that, then I'm going to lose a huge chunk of my audience, I know. All right.
My name is Shane Moss, and this is the story of the first time that I smoked DMT. So this was several years ago. I was in Dallas, Texas. I was doing shows. A comic came up to me afterwards, and he was like, hey, have you ever smoked DMT before? I He's like, no, never heard of it. And he's like, well, you'd like it. You're a trippy dude. So he takes me to this guy's house. The guy's like, have you ever done mushrooms before? And I was like, oh yeah, tons of mushrooms. He's like, okay, well, nothing like mushrooms. Okay. What was that question all about then? Just some odd census that you do? And he's right. Mushrooms and DMT are nothing alike. Mushrooms might make like cars seem shinier than normal, or plants move about in a way that you haven't noticed before. That is not the DMT experience in any way. DMT is like, hey, you know, all of this reality and perception that you are super familiar with and very convinced is real. Well, sorry about this. Zip. Tent of lies collapses, something else entirely going on. It is a real red pill, blue pill, matrixy kind of moment. And
so that's why I wanted to start with this video, because if you ever had a experience with this DMT substance, then you'll know it's like an out-of-body type experience, visiting other realms. It changes the way that you perceive reality afterwards. So once you come back and you realize, oh, I'm back here in this flesh bag suit, never again do you think about the world quite the same way. So it can basically change who you are and how you think about everything with one profound experience. Now, I got a super chat that says from Truth Speaker, that's Shane Moss. He and I did stand-up comedy when he first started in Boston together. So yeah, this guy is a stand-up comic, and he's probably done a shitload of shows. And so if you're out there on the stand-up comedy scene, that's cool. You did a show with him. So yeah, this guy was one of the many comedians who did one of these Tales from the Trips series. This is on Comedy Central, and they did these Tales of the Trip where they would have comedians and celebrities and whatnot talk about their trips on different psychedelic drugs. So it was usually based around psychedelic trips. So there's, you know, Pauly Shore, for instance, talked about the one and only time he ate mushrooms, and various other comedians and celebrities would tell their stories of the time that they, you know, ate acid or did mushrooms or smoked the DMT. So this is basically a comedian's tale of the first time he tried smoking DMT. Holden coming in with a super chat. Thank you very much, Holden. I appreciate that, buddy. All right.
And he goes, take this bong, and you want to have 3 of the biggest hits you can possibly take out of this bong. I was like, no problem. I used to have a 6-foot bong when I was 17 years old, which I felt pretty dumb about until now. I realized I have been training for this moment for a very long time. And he's like, well, just so you know, it comes on very fast and it's very intense. You're going to have the first hit. You're probably going to feel weird. Then you'll have the second hit. That's when it's too much for most people. Most people think they had too much. Something's gone wrong. They want to stop. Whatever you do, don't stop. You have to keep going. You have to get that third hit.
So you're going to hear this a lot, that you need to take 3 big rips. And here's the thing is, if you take a really, really big first rip and you're like a hardcore stoner as it is, and you've got stoner lungs, and you take a big ass first rip, you might not even be able to work the bong to do a second rip. Like once that first rip kicks in, you might be like, holy shit. And you won't even be able to comprehend how to take a second rip unless you've got a friend there helping you to do it. So you hear this a lot, that you got to take 3 rips. What I'm here to tell you is that's not necessarily true. If you smoke really strong crystallized dimethyltryptamine, if you take 1 big giant rip and you hold it in, you won't need to take a second or a third, and you won't even be able to do that. So this whole like having to take 3 rips, not necessarily the case, but I have heard this from many different people, like, oh, you got to take the third one in order to have the breakthrough. Not true.
You'll break through to this other space. And I was like, whatever with the buildup, dude. And I took that bong, I took the first hit of that bong, and right away I was like, oh, I'm turning into a cartoon. Have I always been a cartoon, or am I just now turning into a cartoon? Well, I guess I'll just be a cartoon smoking a bong. And I took the second hit, and then all of this, the entire universe just started shaking violently and collapsing. I was like, oh no, oh, I just did all the drugs. Guess I'm going to die now. And he saw the panic on my face, and he's like, one more. I was like, well, nothing to lose at this point. And I started filling up this bong for the third hit, and it was nice and milky white. I took a breath before clearing it, and then this sense of peace just washed over me. And then everything I've ever known just goes, ba-dum-bum, ba-dum-bum, gone. And then it was just me in this bong in space, not like planets or stars or anything, just a black infinite void. Brought the bong with me. And the smoke inside the bong turned into electricity, and that electricity turned into codes. I was like, this is going to be.
So he's saying that this third hit, he saw the smoke inside the bong turn into electricity, and then it turned into codes. So in this video, he used two words that we're going to hear later on, matrix and code. And then if you remember from the movie, the Matrix movies, the codes, right? The green codes of numbers and whatnot. So keep that in mind, this matrix and this code and this language, and how it can kind of co-interact with these psychedelic experiences. So people can come to these realizations that they live inside of a matrix after a profound psychedelic trip where they, for instance, saw the actual code. Right? So what happens when he smokes the code?
Weird. And then I smoked all those codes up, and then I just shot through a tunnel of fractals and lights and strange colors, and I landed in this hologram computer chip city made out of codes that looked very familiar for some reason. Like I had been there many times before. And it was made out of these lights that were communicating with me in this way that I could understand perfectly, like thoughts without words, clearer than I've ever understood anything. And right away, it was just like, welcome! So happy to see you! And I was like, oh, damn. Well, you really did it this time, Shane. You broke your brain. Now what are you going to do? You live here now. And it just goes, hey, calm down, focus, pay attention. And it just started building these buildings. They were coming together like clockwork. And it was like, this is how I talk. It's all very difficult to explain.
So basically, he went to a realm outside of here, and he was conversing with this being who is showing him something and communicating with him without using words, but by building stuff. And so he's trying to explain what happened. But here's the problem. The realms that you visit and the beings that you might come across, it might be so incredibly complex that trying to put it into words, into English language, and explain it to another being can be quite difficult. In fact, the only way somebody will even understand what you're trying to say is if they've had one of these profound experiences. Because if you try and tell somebody who hasn't had one of these profound experiences that you visited this other realm and you met this other being and you communicated, through telepathy, let's say, they're just going to think that you are a drug-induced, crazed idiot, right? Most likely. Whereas this might be like the most profound thing that ever happened to you. And you'll know in your heart that it was a real thing if it happened to you. But trying to explain it to somebody else, that's where the issue can come in. So I've had some really crazy psychedelic moments and seen some pretty crazy stuff. And then trying to just find the right words of how I want to go about explaining that can be quite an issue. All right. We'll finish this up.
Now, do you understand? I was like, I guess so. And it's like, now, do you really want to see something? Like, it's going to show me the meaning of life or something. And I was like, all right. And it's like, look over here. And I looked over. And there was just this weird, out of place cartoon cat just laughing at me. I looked back like, what? He's like, I'm just fucking with you. And that was it. That was the end of my trip. I was 100% back to normal, as clear-headed as I've ever been in my entire life, going, what the hell was that?
So basically, you can have like a 10-minute journey to somewhere in some other realm, and then in a matter of minutes, like, it goes away, and you're back there staring, at the wall like, huh? And then you're back to normal, basically. So this is one of those drugs that if you smoke it in a crystallized form, it'll basically hit you with like a 10-minute hardcore trip where you hallucinate out of your mind, but then you come back and then it's like you're fine, except you have this slight memory that you just did something out of this world, but it's like a dream to where you almost instantly start forgetting. So trying to like recall all the detail that you saw, it starts to leave your brain like a dream. So then when you go and try and tell someone about it, it's like you're almost trying to tell them about a dream you had. Then you have to try and recall shit. Then you start adding shit to it. And then you realize you can't quite explain what happened to you. All right. And then this right here, where he was shown this cartoon cat. Here's the crazy thing, is I've tried this drug, and there's two different shows that you get. There's the thing you see with your eyes open, and then there's the stuff you see with your eyes closed. And it's two different shows, at least it is for me. Whatever I see with my eyes open has been transformed and changed and has been altered. So it might be like a tree that I see that's an actual tree, but instead of leaves, it's got like cogs and wheels turning, and it's like a machine tree. Whereas if I close my eyes, then I might see something like this fucking cartoon cat or like crazy shapes and shit. Like this might seem weird that you might see a cartoon cat, but you know what? This isn't something that's that far out of the ordinary. And it's not some shit that you like conjured up in your own brain. So this isn't some shit that you'll just imagine on your own. Your brain will just be presented with some new shit from some far out universe. And you'll be like, what? Why? So like when he was shown this and he didn't understand like why the fuck. And then it was just like, oh, I'm just fucking with you. This drug can do stuff like that to you. And then make you sit there and laugh at yourself. Like, what the fuck was that?
Just laughing at me. I looked back like, what? He's like, I'm just fucking with you. And that was it.
So when you tell somebody about this, if they've never been down this rabbit hole, they might think, whatever. You're not going to see a cartoon cat. So there's people who've taken acid and mushrooms, and they'll tell you, no way can you see any of that stuff. And I'm here to tell you, you can see some crazy shit like that and way crazier. Way crazier than anything you could ever imagine yourself. And then you'll know that you didn't imagine that. And it didn't come from your fucking brain. So how the hell did it get inside your fucking brain? All right. So that's what we'll start with. That comedian's tale of the first time he smoked that. And it is a funny story. But now we're going to get into the more serious stuff. Seeing the Matrix code while you're under the influence of this drug. And then what does that really mean? So there's a video that came out called The Discovery. And a lot of you guys, I'm sure, have seen it. For those of you who haven't, it's quite an interesting watch, and it's a short video. So we'll get through it pretty quick. All right, this one I'll blow up the screen. I don't feel like this one's going to get me a copyright strike. All right.
I remember things very vividly from a very young age. When I was a little kid, I actually spent a lot of time with my grandparents. My grandfather was a nuclear physicist. I remember he was telling me about black holes, and that terrified me.
I was like, that's just mind-boggling. It's a monster, right?
But at the same time, it fascinated me. And I said to myself, how do we know that? This unthinkably massive thing. I realized that nature doesn't keep secrets. It's only a matter of, do we understand? What tools can we use to expand our knowledge? And for me, dimethyltryptamine, also known as DMT, was the tool that led me to the discovery.
When I first saw the phenomenon, it was like, holy shit.
But then it was actually like, whoa, what is happening?
Am I losing my mind? But then I showed other people, and things kept getting weirder.
Just for the record, I haven't told him anything. Okay, just tell me what you see.
Oh my God, come on.
Wow, what the fuck? Holy shit. I just saw something. Yeah.
Okay, so these people have taken a vape hit, which I've never tried the vape pen version of the DMT. I've only smoked it. And so apparently when you do the vape pen, you got to take like 3 or 4 big rips for it to really kick in hard. But you can take like 1 or 2 rips to where you're not tripping out too hard. But apparently if you put this laser on the wall and then you hit the pen, these people are claiming that they can see a code. And so you can see by the way they're all riveted to the wall, all of them are basically seeing the same code, and they're riveted to, by this experience. Now, I have never tried this as far as like smoking it or hitting a pen and then staring at a laser. So I've never seen this, but I've also never tried to see it. I've never set up a laser specifically to see this code. So I would be interested in the future in trying to see this code myself to see if indeed this is a real thing that anybody can see, or if only certain people can see it, or what.
What the fuck?
Oh, I see that. I feel it.
I've been under the influence of mind-altering substances a lot, but I've never seen anything like that. Whoa.
I showed over 100 people, and I kept asking myself, how are all of us seeing the same thing?
Apparently it's not something that you can read. If it's just, alien-like symbols or just, numbers and letters randomly coming at you and whatnot, then you wouldn't be able to read it, right? So what I'm hearing is it's more like alien-like symbols, which is something I have seen before. I've seen like these, I don't know, when I say alien, I don't mean space aliens. What I mean are like markings that I don't recognize, but that look like they were specifically marked. So last time I had one of this, an experience on this stuff, it was a couple times ago. I was in Montana out on a dirt road, and I just took one hit, and I took a walk down this dirt road, and when I looked at rocks, they had these like signs on them. no matter how close I got, there's like the signs were there, and it was blowing my mind that I had never noticed that there were these alien markings on all these rocks before, but now I notice it. And then also my skin had designs on it, right? Almost looked like the art that's on the band Tool's albums, like it was on my skin. And so some of the patterns that you see and the markings that you see are out of this world, yet they seem oddly familiar, like you've seen them before in another lifetime. You recognize it as alien writing, but you don't recognize what it is, if that makes sense.
Oh my god. It's changing shapes right there.
The laser was revealing numbers and
programming code.
It's definitely saying something, and I just want to take a picture of it and translate.
And it looks like code.
It looked like programming code.
It's definitely saying something, and I just want to take a picture of it and translate it.
Wow.
You see that?
Okay, so yeah, it's not stuck.
No,
It's not because of the light.
no, it's on its own side. Light is just literally revealing it.
And each angle shows you different layers, different ways through it.
I could see through the wall. It's not like a hallucination. It has spatial awareness and permanence. I don't know. Whoa.
Just the way they're describing it, right? To get that many people to go along with you and stare at the wall and describe it like that, like, I don't think they're putting on a ruse. I think these people are seeing something, and I've had experiences on this stuff. So I haven't done this exact experiment, but if what they're seeing is code, it makes me think, there could be something to this. And so for that reason, I'm open to trying this myself to see if you can indeed see if it's something everyone can see or what.
For centuries, mankind has attempted to explore these psychedelic, altered states, but we've never had a repeatable, testable phenomenon to observe until now.
Wow. I'm obsessed.
It's like you can see through the laser into another dimension.
I mean, like, take yourself to that. Like, I just made a connection that nobody made before, which is a simple connection. The claim is, if you project a diffracted laser on the surface and you smoke DMT, you will see code running in surfaces. Yes, like in the Matrix.
so there are a few possibilities. One,
I lost my mind, which is the coolest losing your mind ever in history.
the second option is that
This is the biggest discovery of humankind. If anybody ever asked themselves what it would be like to know you live in the Matrix for sure, well, I know for sure. I'm convinced.
so where do we go from here? All I know is
It's about to get crazy.
All right, so that is a very popular video from Dan Go Thoughts. This is his most popular video. And then his second most popular video is a follow-up. So we'll watch that. It's also a short video. Actually, this one's even older. So we'll just watch this one as well. I'd have to watch this awesome.
One of the most important things to pay attention to is that you're looking through the laser, not at the diffraction pattern that falls on the wall. So even if you're sitting 2 or 3 feet away, like we're seeing here, you want to be looking at beyond the light, like you're looking through the window versus looking at the surface of the window. Also notice how wide the diffracted pattern of the laser is on the wall. People that choose lasers that are produce this thing that just looks like one line, that's not wide enough for you to see anything because you're looking beyond the laser, not at the surface. So it will be too thin, too narrow of a crack to look through, so to speak. You can come.
Interesting. I haven't heard anyone say that they've seen it without being under the influence of DMT. So this is interesting. I've never heard this. Zane says, some say they don't need DMT to see it. Just use a level laser from Home Depot and magnifying reader glasses. I haven't heard anyone say that. And so from what I've heard, you have to be high. You have to have an altered mind state in order to see it. But according to Zane, some are saying they don't need it. Interesting.
Closer like this, and I would recommend to cover one eye so the light doesn't hit your cornea. And then you would be looking from the side. From the side is better because you get a separation of the layers inside. You want to stay on this task for a little bit until you start seeing structures emerge. If you still don't see anything, you can actually come to the side of the wall, like so, and try and look at the edge of where the light becomes visible from the side. This weirdly makes it even more coherent. One extra emphasis I would give is that you want to stay with it until you start seeing digits. The separation between just seeing the structures and seeing the digits is total. When you still see the structures, it's possible to imagine that these structures are due to the influence of DMT in your brain while you're looking at a stochastic pattern. But when you see the digits, this hypothesis becomes much less tenable. You will notice some motion. Stay with that motion. The digits are usually much smaller than people expect. So keep looking until you see actual digits running, numerals, and what seems like Japanese katakana characters. If you're using a glass of water like here, what you can do, you can either look into the glass of water, into the little reflections that you can see inside the glass. And then what you want to do is to mimic the gesture that we do when we go a little bit cross-eyed, which you will notice is the same gesture that your eyes are doing when you're trying to look beyond something. It's also very similar to what we have to do when we're trying to look at a magic eye image.
Now, see, here's the thing with the magic eye images. I'm one of those guys, I could never get the fucking magic eye images. I would make my eyes go blurry and cross-eyed, and I could never fucking do it. So that makes me wonder, like, if I'm going to be one of those guys who won't be able to see the code because the magic eye shit, I swear I tried when I was a kid, and my friends could see it, my family could see it, so they would look at the magic eye photos and be like, oh, it's an eagle in a nest. And, you know, and I'd be like, fuck, I can't see it, right? So it always used to piss me off. I couldn't see the magic eye thing. So this makes me wonder, like, if I'm going to be one of the unlucky people not able to see it because I don't have the magic eye.
To anybody who's not familiar, the magic eye is a visual illusion that we put on a two-dimensional paper. And when you do a certain thing with your attention, you can all of a sudden see a three-dimensional image in there. But it's embedded in there. It's designed to do that. And the gesture you do with your eyes, if you're familiar with magic eye, is very similar to what we're trying to do here. So either we're looking at the glass directly and we're trying to expand those little reflective patterns. You will see some glistening portions inside the glass. And what you want to do is to expand them by doing the magic eye gestures with your eyes. And you will see the code running inside very coherently. Another option is to look at the light that hits the wall after it's being additionally refracted through the glass of water. So now we have a diffraction and a refraction pattern all together. You want to be looking at the area after it passed the water, which is different than the light that hits the wall directly. Something about the refractive index of water that makes what we see in the laser even more coherent. It's not clear what yet, we're working on that, but that's the case and it can help people who are having a hard time seeing it.
All right, so this is Dan Go Thoughts, and those are his two most popular videos. All right. So, what do you guys think? Now, I have had some psychedelic experiences on that compound that were quite mind-blowing. The most mind-blowing of all, I went out next to a slow-moving stream, and just before I went to take a hit, I went, am I going to, like, jump in there and drown? And I thought, no, it's not deep enough. I'll be fine. And then, sure enough, within like a few minutes of taking that hit, I got in the water and started swimming, and then I almost drowned. So don't take it near water because you'll convince yourself that you want to go swimming. But I had an amazing experience going swimming that hardly anyone else in the world will ever have. So I know what it's like to be tripping on that stuff, like full blown hardcore tripping, and then go swimming in actual water. And I was doing good. I was swimming really good until the very end. I started to freak out and I thought I was going to drown, but I never did suck in any water. So I didn't actually almost drown. I just thought that I was because I was coming off of it and I was in the water and it felt like I was getting sucked into a whirlpool. And then when I got up out of the water and the shit had worn off, I was like, what? How did I get here? So I've had some really crazy psychedelic experiences on this stuff. So I know it can transport you to other realms for sure. However, I haven't seen this code in the laser. So I can't give you my personal account of that. So I have no experience seeing a laser beam while I'm under the influence of that stuff. So maybe some of you guys have tried it. I don't know. So maybe there's somebody here who's done it. Got a super chat from Dcran4D, said, why somebody hits DMT then decides to look at a laser in the first place? Why not? Right? There's only so many things a human can do while you're here. So eventually those two combinations just went down, you know? So, you know, there's all the different things you can do while under the influence of all these different drugs and compounds. So somebody just eventually stuck DMT and laser together, had this experience. I don't know. I couldn't tell you what prompted the first guy to figure this out, whether it was an accident or if he was trying or what. But, you know, good question. Thank you, Dcran4D. All right. Flat Earth Lutton 2007 said ancestors used psychs, but not in the made amounts as us. Hippies were a new trend. Yeah, so my guess is that you know, ancient cultures have definitely messed with psychedelics, and that's really not much of a secret. So there's like Native American tribes that, you know, use what peyote and stuff like that in their ceremonial dances and in their ceremonies and whatnot. So different tribes of people throughout, you know, history, it's been documented that they have these powerful out of body experiences on different forms of psychedelics. But a lot of these psychedelics have a very similar effect. So like drinking ayahuasca and then smoking DMT are going to give you, like, I guess, a very similar effect. And, you know, eating acid and doing mushrooms are somewhat similar. They're both somewhat a similar psychedelic experience. So there is similarities between some of these different psychedelic compounds that if you've tried one, it can be somewhat like the other. But then, you know, there's compounds that are just completely different. So a mushroom trip and a DMT trip are going to be two completely different journeys. And yeah, the hippies definitely, like, LSD was something concocted, you know, and set upon the hippies by the government, you'd figure. It didn't just come from, you know, hippies concocting that shit. So you got to look at chemical drugs coming from the government. And then the government's, you know, tested these drugs on people before they set them loose. So yeah, you can pretty much tie back any sort of hardcore chemical drugs back to the government. But they want you to think it comes from, you know, hippies and bad guys. Cartels. All right. Javid Ben Cosme says Kendrick reference Super Bowl. Sorry. Kendrick reference Super Bowl. Sorry. I don't get it, bro. Or is this, oh, maybe you're talking about from your other super chat. Hey, Jake, I hear you like him young. Don't go to cell block 1. Okay, yeah, because I have no idea what the hell that means. You hear I like him young. I don't know what you heard about me, bro, but that doesn't sound like me at all. Kendrick reference Super Bowl. Okay, yeah, you have to be referencing something that I have no idea. Mar or whatever. That's the only Kendrick that I've heard of, and I don't even really know who that is, right? Like the random black guy of the month, right? There's these black guys of the month who are like big time rapper guys for like a year or two, and then a couple of years later some other new black guy comes out who people talk about, and I don't ever fucking listen to any of their music and don't know shit about them. So if you're referencing a song or a lyric or whatever, I have no idea. And it doesn't pertain to me at all. So I don't quite get why you would send me a super chat with that reference, but thanks anyway, I guess. Nice to see you, Javid. All right. It's like I got another super chat rolling in from Frank Castle. Said would be interesting to have these lasers form sigils of malevolent or divine beings. You know, I've heard people say that they've come into contact with beings after they smoked DMT or have ingested ayahuasca, that they've talked to other beings and whatnot and other life forms. I haven't, though. That's the crazy thing is, so like I haven't come across any other thing that talks to me or whatever that is alive. So I've had these really profound experiences where everything is, you know, super psychedelic, and closing my eyes is a different show than what my eyes are open. And but I've never come across like any other sort of you know, elf or interdimensional being that has tried to communicate with me or any of that. So I've heard other people tell me those stories. So apparently that is something that happens to some people. I just haven't had it happen to me. It's usually just me interacting with a crazy realm. Brian Mills says, I have, they fuck with me. See, I've heard stories that, you know, the beings love you and they want to show you stuff, you know, like Shane Moss, that's comedian we watched earlier. He has another story where like the second and third and fourth time he smoked it, he would meet this purple girl, and it was like his interdimensional girlfriend. And he would say, you know, like he would meet up with the same purple girl like over and over again each time he smoked it. And that's crazy to me because like I can't imagine like meeting a being each and every time I smoke the shit. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, that's my purple interdimensional girlfriend. That's crazy to me. So I haven't had any sort of experience like that. But Shane Moss swears that he has a interdimensional purple girlfriend that he sees whenever he trips on that stuff now. I don't know if he still sees her, but that was his story in the next video that he made. All right. Got a super chat coming in from Jacques Tollard. Says, sorry, I missed the early part, but of course, I admire your honesty and humor, of course. Thank you, Jacques Tollard. Super chat. Yeah, so the first part, I went over a comedian's first trip on DMT. It was a Comedy Central clip. And then I showed how the people that were smoking the DMT pen and looking at a laser were seeing the matrix code. And that was all I've shown so far. Now we're just discussing it. All right. Saul says, I would like myself a purple interdimensional girlfriend. All right. So let me go ahead and transition that over to some of the stuff I talk about on my channel, right? Some of my work. So now that we've covered that we could be living in some sort of matrix, this could be like a computer construct of sorts. Let's go ahead and revisit some of my flat earth work. And then if you look at it through the eyes of this place being more of a simulation, virtual reality of sorts, then suddenly some of the things that I talk about with each person seeing their own sun, each person seeing their own moon and stars in their own virtual dome, suddenly those things don't seem so crazy if you look at it through the scope that we possibly live in some sort of simulated virtual reality realm, a computer construct. All right, so let me go ahead and pull up one of my flat earth videos and catch everyone up on my flat earth stance, because I happen to have the best flat earth content in the world, and it's partially in part to a friend of mine, Q and Fee, who also has the best flat earth content in the world. So with help from Q and Fee, I've created what I consider to be the best flat earth videos in the world. And so any of you who are unfamiliar with my work, now that we've established that we could possibly be living in some sort of matrix, now we'll go back and revisit my work with that frame of mind. But it looks like I'm getting a bunch of super chats coming in right now. So before I get started, let me read all these. Javid said, yo, I'm still getting withdrawals from Molly. Reminds me of Adderall withdrawals. I met up with this girl I like. She told me she wants to be a gold digger on dating apps. She uses them to travel for free. Broke my heart. Sounds like a lovely lady. I'm surprised it didn't work out, bro. You're telling me that lady broke your heart after telling you that she's a gold digger who likes to use dating apps to travel and get free shit out of men? You're telling me it didn't work out with that lady? Considered me shocked. Come on, bro. These are learning experiences that you need to figure out, right? So I guess that has to happen to you in order for you to learn your lesson, not to mess around with these type of women, right? But you should know that. And I've tried Molly a couple times and I enjoyed it, but it does have like a chemical come down. And so that was something that I didn't like, was like the next day I would feel like shit and it would leave me like just feeling out of it the next day. So I don't like the chemical come down from ecstasy and Molly and MDMA and stuff like that. So I've tried it in the past, but only a handful of times. And so that was something I never got into. So luckily, I've never had to experience like hardcore withdrawals from it. And I haven't done any sort of Adderall or any of that sort of stuff. The children's speed, right? I haven't done that since I was in like high school. I think I was in maybe my early 20s. I had a few friends that would sell those pills. So probably the last time I touched that stuff was in my early 20s. And now I'm going to be 42 in July. So it's probably been 20 years since I've touched that stuff. I remember that making me feel kind of icky as well. So I never got into chemical speedy drugs. And the friends that did have that sort of stuff were kind of far and few. So it was kind of rare that I ever even tampered with any of that stuff. So luckily for me, I never got addicted to any hardcore chemical type drug. Instead, I've always been a classic stoner. So I've been smoking since I was 17. So I'm fully addicted stoner for sure, an everyday smoker. But pretty much all my money when I was a teenager and in my 20s would go to weed. And I didn't have any left over for hardcore drugs. Beer and weed. So I never had enough money to support any other major drug habits. Thank God. And now that I do have, a little bit of money in the bank, I know better than to blow it on hardcore drugs. Thank you, Javid, for the super chat. Hopefully you heal up soon over the witchy woman who broke your heart. It's been a while since I had a woman break my heart. I've been alone for so long now that I forgot what it was like to truly have my heart stomped on. Javid says, should I go to the Philippines to find love? Why haven't you done this? Every day I wake up and I think I should either make a video, do a live stream, or like go on a mini vacation. So basically every day I wake up and go, what should I do? Should I make content? Should I do a live stream? Or should I take my dog and go somewhere? So that's basically what I do every day, is try and decide what I want to do every day. And yeah, I haven't thought about leaving the country or going to try and find women overseas. This is like not even on my mind. Basically every day is like, what should I do today? And I scratch my head and decide whether I want to make a video, do a stream, or just take the day off and catch up on errands or take a mini vacation over to the coast. That's pretty much what my life is every single day over and over, which is pretty chill and easy. So I can't complain. The biggest thing I have to complain about is that like I don't know what I want to do each day. I don't have a set schedule. So I just kind of make it up each day as I go along. So Tuesday streaming is like the only set scheduled thing that I really have to do. So outside of that, man, I just kind of, let life come to me. And so I'm not one of these dudes that's like thinking about, flying overseas to like find a woman, right? And I know if I really get hard up, I could probably go find some chick, you know what I mean? If I like lowered my standards and I was really hard up, I could probably find some woman who could put up with me for a short burst to get my kicks. But even that, man, I'm finding less and less motivation for that. Like a lot of men and women, I'm just kind of like whatever with the dating scene, focusing more on, my own career and my happiness, So yeah, that's just not really where my mindset is at right now. All right, make sure I cleared out all the super chats, and then we'll move along to the flat earth and how it ties into the matrix and whatnot. All right. And it also includes some jabs at Jaren, of course, which I always love to do. The biggest dirtbag, shillbag in the world.
People are freaking out because I think it's the way people are freaking out because I think it's the way you said something and that I don't agree with, and which is if you see a clear sun, circling around, and we know, and it wasn't faked, you made it sound like you're going to say the earth is a globe.
I'm going to say that the earth cannot be flat. I'm going to say that the earth cannot be flat.
I'm going to say that the earth cannot be flat.
And of course, we all know that's exactly what he did. What's up, guys? Jake here. And today I am going to be taking it back to where it all began, the flat earth topic. That's right, my very first video I ever made back in 2016. Wow, time flies. It was called Flat Earth Popular Questions. I had no idea I was going to become a professional YouTuber, but here I am. The year is now 2024. So people are now asking, well, what is your current stance with the flat earth? So I am going to dedicate this video into catching everyone up and letting everyone know my current stance with the flat Earth topic. So first off, I am not a globe believer. I do not believe in the globe model at all. I do not believe in the concept of outer space. I do not believe in the concept of an infinite space vacuum. I do not believe in space missions. I do not believe in any sort of space exploration done by any sort of government. And yes, that does include SpaceX, Blue Origin, and etc. I don't believe in a globe because it is provably wrong. I don't believe in an AE map with a singular circling sun and a singular circling moon because it is provably wrong. I believe in what we can prove. I believe in what I see. And what I see is a sun that rises from the horizon. I see a sun that sets back into the horizon. One of the biggest lies ever told on the flat Earth is that the sun isn't setting, it just appears that way because it's moving away from you. And the sun isn't really rising, it just appears that way because of perspective. It's actually just coming at you. So this is a piece of disinformation that is still repeated by the majority of flat Earth controlled opposition channels and useful idiot flat Earth channels. There's very few channels that'll tell you the truth. The sun does rise and it does set. It does go up and down. And yeah, after you see it set, if you were to go up to the top of a tall building, you can see it set again. But then it will get to a point where no matter how high you go up, it'll be done setting and it'll be gone. It will set. So, one of the things that the shills say, such as Russian vids, Eric Dubé, is that the sun's just coming at you and going away from you. But as you can see, the sun doesn't shrink into a tiny dot. In fact, oftentimes it gets bigger on the horizon. So what you get is a big giant sun setting into the horizon. So rather than say, oh, it's not really setting. No, it is setting. You see it setting. So I like to trust my eyes and my senses. I see it setting because it does set. Whereas the shills will tell you, oh no, it's just coming at you and going away from you. But that's incorrect. Each of us does see the sunrise and we do see it set. Furthermore, we all see our own sun. Now, these concepts might not make sense until you wrap your mind around the fact that this place isn't what they told us it is. So if you come to the conclusion that this place isn't what they told you, then some of these concepts suddenly aren't so crazy. Each person seeing their own sun. Well, if you live in a matrix reality, a computer construct, where each person is assigned their own sun, suddenly it's not so crazy. It only doesn't make sense if you think you live on a ball shooting through space or a pizza pie with one sun and one moon shooting in a circle. And the whole thing is just perspective.
That goes along with perspective showing a sun level across the level Earth going away.
The reason why this is one of the biggest lies ever told on the flat Earth is because we don't see the sun get smaller and smaller and smaller and shrink into a dot. That only exists on that one YouTube video. If you go watch the sun set in person, you will see it get big and orange and then merge into the horizon. So this notion that these street lights are all at the same distance above the Earth and they only appear to be merging into the horizon due to perspective, yeah, that is correct. But that's not the same thing that's happening with the sun. See how this light right here is bigger than these ones way down here? Whereas the sun doesn't do that. You don't see the sun shrink into a tiny dot. Now, there is like one or two videos online that guys like Russian Vids and Eric Dubé will go dig up where the sun appears to be shrinking in a video. But there's way more videos of the sun being big when it sets. And when you see it with your own two eyes, you know damn well you don't see it shrink into a dot. You see it get big and go into the horizon. So with your own two eyes, you don't see it shrink into a dot. The only videos you find on the internet are far and few. And then you got shills like Eric Dubé and Russian Vids who will cling to those examples online while dismissing all of the other proofs that the sun does rise and set. So a lot of people woke up to the flat earth because of Eric Dubé. What you woke up to was a wrong model of the flat earth by a controlled ops shill who's still telling the same lies. As you can clearly see, those street lights appear to be getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until it shrinks into a tiny little dot. Look at the first street light and how big it appears, and then look at the last street light near the horizon. Yeah, that's... Davey says Russian Vids is here. What account do you think he's using? Oh, now I got this go. It does shrink sometimes when only on camera, sometimes in a couple videos. What about all the other times it gets super fucking big? You know, like the way you always see it. It's because of moisture. No, it's not. I've been to the desert and it gets big when it goes down in the desert. So I've heard this whole, there's moisture and the moisture's like a magnifying glass. I've been to Las Vegas and the sun still gets big as fuck when it goes down. I've been to places where there's zero humidity. The desert. And the sun still gets big when it goes down. And it doesn't shrink into a fucking dot. Anyone still pushing that, you're pushing wrong information. You may as well say that the sun goes in a circle and totally look like a dumb fuck, like RV still does. You may as well just say one sun goes in a circle because the Bible says so, even though that's totally untrue. So there's shills who will tell you the Bible says that the earth is flat. The Bible says that the sun goes in a circle. The Bible. No, it doesn't say any of those things. But there's people who will tell you they're flat earth Christians while they fucking lie to your face. So the flat earth Christians are the ones lying to your face because they aren't fucking Christians. But they have a real easy time duping Christians because Christians like to believe anyone who calls themselves a Christian must be fucking telling the truth. That's why you got guys like Richie from Boston. I'm a Christian, so you know you can trust me. I would never lie about anything. I would never, ever tell a story that didn't make sense because I'm a Christian. Same with Russian Vids. Pretend to be a Christian so you can easily dupe all those who do call themselves Christians by claiming, hey, I'm a Christian, I can't lie. Meanwhile, you have the guy, me, telling you the truth about this basic shit. Like, look, the sun does go up and down just like you see it. It's not happening with the sun. So what they want you to do is disregard what you are actually experiencing, what you actually see with your own two eyes. And instead, they want you to accept this lie that the sun only appears to be rising due to perspective, and it only appears to be setting due to perspective. Yeah, I'm going to prove in this video the sun is rising and it is setting, and it's not just due to perspective.
Earth is a level, motionless plane with the sun, moon, and stars revolving over and around us.
All right, now you're trying to say shit and put words into my mouth. I didn't say it goes into the ground physically. I'm not saying a fireball goes into the fucking ground and starts it on fire. That's something that Russian Vids would say to debunk me. Jake thinks that the sun goes into the ground. But since it doesn't start the ground on fire, we know it doesn't do that. Fuck you. The sun rises and it sets into the horizon. It's not a physical object. It does rise and set. I've proven it many times. Sunrise and sunset angles prove it. You can't have one sun go in a circle and fucking rise from the southeast and set to the southwest. You can't have it rise from 90-degree east for every observer on the equinox with one sun. Listen here, YouTube, who doesn't show his face. You want to come on here and have me fucking destroy you, man to man? Mr. YouTube?
Just as you experience every day. It is obvious to any child and sovereign-minded adult that the sun, moon, stars, and planets, every light in the sky above, revolves around the motionless earth beneath our feet.
Wrong. Not only is this provably wrong disinformation, but these lies have been being pushed by liars like Eric Dubay, David Weiss, Jeranism, Mark Sargent, you name it, the list goes on and on. This is provably wrong disinformation. Yeah, the sun going in a corkscrew like that is fucking wrong. I've proved it wrong over and over again for like a fucking decade almost. And guess what? The shills just keep repeating it. You can show a shill the fucking compass reading from Australia below the Tropic of Capricorn with the sun rising out of the south and setting to the south, which is impossible with it corkscrewing like that between the tropics. And they'll just lie and go, no. That's what RV does. RV will just lie, show this cartoon graphic. You show him the actual sun rising and setting from locations that don't match the graphic, and he just goes, no. That's it. He just says, no. And then continues showing this. And this is what 90% or more of all flat earthers do. They keep showing this, which is fucking wrong. That has been being pushed for a decade. One circling sun and one circling moon over the AE map is impossible. And I'm going to prove it to you. And once I prove it to you, then the notion of the sun rising and setting on a flat earth might not seem so crazy. All right, we got a guy telling me that the Bible's got bro. Multiple suns doesn't work. Each person sees their own sun. You think 2 suns fixes the problem? You think 3 suns fixes the problem? You probably haven't paid fucking attention to what I've been showing you. This is what really irritates me. I show you guys how the sunrise and sunset angles don't match this map, and you still repeat the same debunked stupid shit. Well, maybe there's 2 suns then. There can't be. Everyone would see the sunrise from 90 degrees east on the equinox. How would you do it with 2 suns? How would you do it with 3? It's impossible unless everyone sees their own sun to see a 90-degree east sunrise for everyone on an equinox. So I implore you to go look at sun calc. Stop looking at religious books that were written by men. Did you see God himself write the Bible? Did you watch God himself write and print all those Bibles? Every year, there are 2 equinoxes, one that occurs around March 20th, the spring equinox, and the other which occurs around September 22nd, the autumn equinox. Now, on the equinoxes, that means every single person on the flat earth is going to get about 12 hours of sunlight and 12 hours of darkness. Not only that, everyone on the flat earth is going to see a 90-degree east sunrise and a 270 west sunset. Now, you can't just spin one sun around the AE map like a flashlight and light up a circle portion of the earth. That's not going to do the trick. You actually have to light up half of the earth. That way you can get 12 hours of light, 12 hours of darkness. Now, here's the impossible part. The sun has to be on the equator, as it's shown, but every single observer on the flat Earth is going to see a 90-degree east sunrise and a 270 west sunset, which is impossible with one circling sun. I'll let Q and Fee model it up and explain it all.
Every light in the sky above revolves around the motionless earth beneath our feet.
Circling around, you say? I think your head is circling around. This is not really a match with your presentation. So this must go around with 15 degrees an hour. I think you're a lunatic. And it happens to be the equinox. And guess what? Here is the sun setting. And on this side, the sun is rising.
Okay, so here's the exact argument modeled up exquisitely by the one and only Q and Fee, a legend in the flat earth content creator realm. So what Q and Fee has modeled up here is that you have an observer here in South Africa on the equinox, which you're going to have equal day, equal night, 12 hours day, 12 hours night for each observer. And you're going to get each observer basically seeing the sunrise from 90 degrees east, setting 270 west. So how do you do this with one sun? You can't do it with one sun. So this observer here sees a 90-degree east sunrise. This observer here sees a 90-degree east sunrise. This observer here sees a 90-degree east sunrise. Meanwhile, someone on the same line of longitude across the world is seeing the sun set from these three locations. And at the exact same time, this guy right here at noon looks straight above his head and sees the sun above his head. So how are you going to have suns in all these locations for all of these observers at the precise places they're supposed to be with one sun? You can't. In this observation, you would need 7 suns. Are there 7 suns? No, each person sees their own sun. The more fucking observers you add, the more suns you're going to need. So what in the hell's going on if each person is seeing their own 90-degree east sunrise on the equinox, no matter where you are? How the hell is that even possible? Like I tried to tell you at the beginning of the stream, this place is not what they told us. Not at all. So if we live in some sort of virtual reality, simulation, computer construct of sorts, well, then each person seeing their own sun, each person having a sun assigned by a computer, that's what I meant to say. Each person having a sun assigned to them by a computer program, right? Like you're in some sort of giant video game of sorts. Now suddenly that doesn't seem too crazy after we talked about the people seeing the code, the matrix code in the laser. After we heard the story from the comedian smoking the codes and then, going to this alternate realm, right? So if this place isn't what we're told, if there is a matrix behind what we perceive to be reality, if this place is some sort of a computer-run realm, perhaps we are the organic matter. I can't say for sure, but what I can say is for sure it ain't what they told us it is. So when we get to problems with what the sun's doing, and the data says that the sunrise from 90 degrees east for all observers sets 270 west for all observers, that's a problem as far as the globe model is concerned and as far as a flat earth with one sun is concerned. So that means we're all seeing one sun, but we ain't all seeing the same one sun. And the angles at which we all see the sun don't triangulate back to the same one sun. So all these angles that we see here are independent angles from those observers in those locations. And they don't triangulate back to one sun. This is a fact that this is happening. The data that Q and Fee has modeled up proves some other weird shit is going on here. where everybody sees their own sun. That's why I came to the conclusion that each person sees their own sun, because that's what the data suggests is fucking happening. Now, that doesn't make sense that that's happening, but whether I think it makes sense or not, that's what's happening. So then I have to try and make sense out of something that doesn't match what we're told at all, and I have to be the one and try and piece it together. And so guys like myself and Q and Fee have been painstakingly trying to piece this puzzle together without any help from anyone, when we're fed nothing but lies from everyone else in the world. We have to dismiss all these lies, take the pieces to the puzzle, and try and start sticking it together somehow. So let's continue from this position here. Each person seeing their own sun. What does that mean?
90 degrees east and set 270 degrees west. Rises with an angle of...
Here's the problem with this statement that, oh, the map's just wrong. This coordinate system, see all these numbers going around and the lines of longitude and latitude. Q and Fee can fucking plot an exact coordinate without even having the land masses on there, right? He can plot exact coordinates because of this system. So the way that the land masses are laid out with this particular coordinate system like that, it actually matches up to the sunrise and sunset angles, but only if you take the observed data and have each observer seeing their own sun. So it's not like, oh, all this is instantly fixed with a different map. Whatever map you use, you're still going to have the problem where each person is going to have to see their own sun. So whether you use Mercator or whether you use this map or any version of a flat Earth map, you're still going to have the sun rising and setting from the correct angles if you want to have a working model or even a semi-working model. So that's what this model does. It takes the official data, the observed data that we see of the sun rising and setting, and we stick this on the Circle AE map rather than the one sun and the one moon. And what you end up with, if you do this, is a much more accurate representation than the one with the circling sun and the circling moon, which is impossible. So believe it or not, this is actually a much more accurate representation of where you live than the one you were given before by the shills, which is easily debunked and impossible.
Rises with an angle of about 90 degrees east on the same moment over the full longitude. It seems we have more than 190 degrees east direction. You see that?
So this is sun calc. And if you go to the equinox, so right here, March 20th, so there's two equinoxes. There's a fall equinox and a spring equinox. So we just had the spring equinox last month. And if you go to the equinox dates, it'll show that the sun's going to rise from 90 degrees east and set 270 west. So this is showing you the path that the sun will come at you from 90 degrees east, go over your head, and set. Now you can move this cursor around as Q and Fee did. And so up here at the top of the map, this observer is going to see a 90-degree east sunset.
Good. It seems we have more than 190 degrees east direction. You see that?
So you can move the cursor around and the observer's still going to see the sunrise from 90 degrees east. So somebody down here is going to see it rise from 90 degrees east. Somebody up at the top of the earth is going to see it from 90 degrees east. So how can one sun be on the equator and rise 90 degrees east for this person and for this person down here when it should be on the equator? That's basically proof we're all seeing our own sun we all get our own independent sunrise and sunset. And the angles at which we see the sunrise and set don't triangulate back to the same one sun. Furthermore, SunCalc, whenever I use this info, there's globers who will say you can't use that because that's globe information. But Q&Phi, I'm going to show you in the video right after this one. Q&Phi has used this information from SunCalc to debunk the globe model. And none of the globe cucks have responded to Q&Phi. So tonight, I'm going to show Q&Phi's video debunking the globe using this information. And I'm going to challenge Jaron, Micktoon, Fight the Fat Ass Craig, any of those globe cucks to refute and respond to Q&Phi. And I bet you they won't do it. It's because they can't debunk Q&Phi and they can't debunk this information.
And here at the 160 degrees west, we have the sunset, all about 270 degrees west at the same moment. You want to explain this away with perspective, like those other retard earthers do.
Q&Phi is 100% correct. What you see here cannot be explained away by perspective. With one circling sun on the equator, it is impossible for every observer on that same line of longitude to see a 90-degree east sunrise and a 270-degree west sunset. Q&Phi modeled this up perfectly, and anyone with a working brain should be able to see that by Q&Phi modeling up how it's physically impossible for one circling sun to be in all those locations at once. That should prove to you or anyone watching that a single circling sun over an AE map is impossible. As you can see by this example modeled up by Q&Phi, every observer on this line of longitude is going to be seeing the sunrise at the same moment from the same angle. And then over on the other side of the Earth, on that same line of longitude, these three observers are going to be seeing the sun set at the exact same moment. So yeah, guys, with one sun on the equator going in a circle, you wouldn't be able to create these sunrise and sunset angles on the equinox. See, if one sun was on the equator just going around like this, it wouldn't be able to rise 90 degrees east up here on the equator and below the equator and over here be setting and be above this guy's head at noon, all at the exact same moment. So what this tells you is, if all these people are seeing these different angles to the sun, and it doesn't triangulate back to one sun, but we all only see one sun, that's how you come to the conclusion that we're all seeing our own fucking sun. And if we're all seeing our own sun, then clearly this place is not what they told us. Now, here's another reason why it shouldn't be that hard for you to wrap your mind around this. And in fact, what they told you is even more impossible. So what they told us is that the sun is a gigantic fireball 93 million miles away, and that the moon is a little gray rock 238,000 miles away. And they just so happen to appear to be the same size in the sky, and they just so happen to eclipse each other just perfectly. Think about the cosmic coincidence that the sun and moon just happen to look like they're the same size to your little human eye, and they happen to go in front of each other and eclipse each other just perfectly. For the globe model to make sense, where you're shooting through a infinite space void and everything was created by a magic explosion for no reason, for your human eye to see a tiny gray rock and a big gigantic fireball sun that just so happen to appear to be the same size and they eclipse each other perfectly is a fucking physical impossibility. That would be like the biggest cosmic coinky-dink that ever happened. That you're a speck of nothing human that gets to see a big gigantic fireball and a gray rock happen to look like the same size just by accident. So it makes way more sense that the sun and the moon are basically the same size. We're created that way, and we're created to eclipse each other. It makes way more sense that it's divine creation, that these things eclipse each other, and that that's the way it was meant to be, rather than them accidentally doing it, right? So when you take into consideration that the sun isn't what they told us, it's not a gigantic fireball, then what is it? And if the moon isn't a gray rock that people walked on, then what is it? And so if we're all stuck seeing the same face of the moon all the time, how can you ever know really what it is? You can't even see the back of it. You can't see the sides of it. We're all stuck, all of us, seeing the same side of the moon all the time. That doesn't make sense in any model, that we're stuck seeing the same face of this moon all the time. We can't ever see the sides or the back, no matter what angle you take. So when you look at these things up in the sky, they don't make sense as far as what we're told. It doesn't make sense at all, the shit that's in the sky. Flying clouds of water that hold millions of gallons of water can fly. Even that doesn't make sense. Flying water. So everything about this place that was fed to us was a lie. So when we're trying to put this puzzle together and you get to a point where something seems crazy or doesn't make sense, you have to remember that they lied to you about everything. So what really is crazy? Is saying we all see our own sun really crazy? When you're confronted with the fact that they lied about what the sun is, nobody really knows even what the fuck it really is or how it works. Well, maybe it's not so crazy to say we all see our own sun if they lied about what it is and you don't even know what it is. Mr. Meaner says, here, Jake missed the laser test part. I'll watch it back later. Thank you very much, Mr. Meaner. All right. So if we were to live in a computer construct of sorts, and we were all assigned our own sun and our own moon, suddenly that doesn't seem so crazy once you're confronted with the fact that it's definitely not what they said it was. All right. Lint away, duct cleaning says, Jake, you're the greatest YouTube truther ever. Oh, I appreciate that, man. This is one of the more deeper subjects, and this is how the channel got started, was talking about this subject. So let me continue from here. But wait, that's not all. You see this guy over here standing on the equator? He's going to look straight up and see the sun right over his head in that exact same moment. So how can you have 7 different observers seeing the sun in 7 different locations at the exact same time? Does that mean there are 7 suns? No. What's happening is that each observer sees their own sun, and each observer only sees one sun. So basically, we are all seeing our own sun. So check it out. Here's another proof I like. You see this shimmer? The shimmer lines up directly with my eyeballs. And somebody across the lake over, 5-10 miles away from me, they're going to see the sun shimmer lined up with their eyes. Like this. When they look out on the water, it'll be lined up with their eyes. I won't be able to see their sun shimmer line. They can't see my sun shimmer line. That's my sun shimmer line right there. And if I take off and run to the left or the right, the sun shimmer line stays locked with me. The sun follows me and the shimmer line follows me. So I can get in my car and start driving 60 miles an hour and that shimmer line will stay with me. Meanwhile, somebody else across the lake sees their shimmer line. Right? So what does that mean? It means the sun is rising, it is setting, and we are all seeing our own independent local sun. And the angles at which we all see our own independent local sun, they don't triangulate back to one singular circling sun.
The apparent motion of the sun is not uniform. For this reason, it would be difficult to construct a clock capable of keeping this irregular time. Therefore, a mean or imaginary sun is used. This mean sun is assumed to have a uniform rate of motion with respect to the Earth. The time measured by the mean or imaginary sun is called mean or civil time, and uses a mean or imaginary sun as its reference point.
So in order for celestial navigation to work, a mean sun or virtual sun is used, and the reason is because the actual observation angles to the sun are irregular, and they don't triangulate back to one singular sun. So the fact that the angles at which we all see the sun are irregular, they don't use the actual position of the actual sun for celestial navigation. They use a virtual sun. So guys, did you know that celestial navigation uses a imaginary sun? Yeah, one that goes around in 24 hours. That's the imaginary sun. That's because the actual sun that you see, yeah, the angle that you see the sun is going to be irregular. And so you have to use the mean sun, the imaginary sun, in order to do celestial navigation. So this training film from the Navy says the mean sun is assumed to have a uniform rate of motion
with respect to the Earth. The time measured by the mean or imaginary sun is called mean or civil time, and uses a mean or imaginary sun as its reference point.
And the reason they use the imaginary sun is because the apparent motion of the sun is not uniform. Which basically is what I'm saying. Each person sees their own independent angle, as in apparent motion of the sun not uniform, because we're all seeing our own independent angle that doesn't triangulate back to one sun. So they have to create an imaginary sun, a virtual sun, in order to do celestial navigation.
The sun is not uniform. For this reason, it would be difficult to construct a clock capable of keeping this irregular time. Therefore, a mean or imaginary sun is used. This mean sun is assumed to have a uniform rate of motion with respect to the Earth. The time measured by the mean or imaginary sun is called mean or civil time, and uses a mean or imaginary sun as its reference point.
So in order for celestial navigation to work, a mean sun or virtual sun is used, and the reason is because the actual observation angles to the sun are irregular, and they don't triangulate back to one singular sun. So the fact that the angles at which we all see the sun are irregular, they don't use the actual position of the actual sun for celestial navigation. They use a virtual sun, as in a not real sun. Once I found this out, then it made perfect sense why a singular circling sun over an AE map doesn't work at all. That's because it's the imaginary sun, the mean sun, the virtual sun. That's why none of the sunrise and sunset angles match. That's why it fails so miserably. So what's happening is guys like Eric Dubé, David Weiss, Jeranism, Mark Sargent, they're all using the virtual and/or mean sun. Add Russian vids to the list of the shills I just mentioned. Yeah, the one that goes in the circle is the virtual sun, the mean sun, the one that goes around uniformly in 24 hours, which is imaginary. Yeah, the real sun rises and sets and each person is going to see their own independent angles that will not match this circular path. So where did the circular path come from? It's the path of the imaginary sun, the mean sun, which has to go around in 24 hours. This is a virtual sun, which means it's not real. And so when you take the actual observation data of the real sun, it doesn't match the circling path over the AE map. Do we understand ourselves? I hope so.
The iPhone could finally be dead. There's a tiny phone company you've never heard of, but it's quietly paying users just for...
So what does all that mean? Well, that means we live in some sort of a hyper-realistic simulation of sorts, perhaps a virtual reality. Well, if you don't like either of those explanations, for lack of a better explanation, this place is a magical, mystical realm that defies explanation. So the notion of one singular circling sun is impossible. And the fact that we are all seeing our own local sun rise and set is a reality. So rather than make excuses and deny reality, I'm going to accept that this is indeed reality, what we are seeing and experiencing.
People are freaking out because I think it's the way you said something and that I don't agree with, and which is, if you see a clear sun, circling.
All right, let me go to my next video, and then I'll get to Q and fee stuff. All right. And some of this is going to be repeated information that some of you have already seen before, but there's always new people who haven't heard this information yet. So I feel like it's important to touch on this stuff every few months. All right. So let's continue with the sun. All right. We experience it setting into the horizon. And the next day, we experience the sun rising and or being created at the horizon. So another way to explain the sun rising is that it is being created at the horizon. It is being materialized at the horizon. And when it sets, it is returning to the horizon. It is dematerializing at the horizon. That is what we see it do. When I move, you move. Just like that. When I move, you move. Put all these commercials in here. This flat Earth model with a rising and setting sun is based upon the notion that each individual observer will see their own local sunrise and local sunset. In this flat Earth model, we are definitely not looking at stars millions of light years away in an infinite space vacuum. No. And we are not looking at stars tens of thousands of miles away inside of a firmament over the Earth. That's wrong as well. Instead, imagine, if you will, a virtual dome. And in this virtual dome, you are the center of your own universe. So this is Stellarium. Any of you guys can use this program. So if I was to take my phone, go to Stellarium, I can pull up the stars that are above my head right now, right here in the office. And it's going to get the locations of the stars above my head right now, even though I'm inside of an office. So when I suggest that each one of us has a virtual dome over our head, where our own sun and our own moon and our stars are rendered for us personally, these computer programs like Stellarium are basically doing that same thing for you. They're giving you a virtual dome over your head and showing you where the position of the stars are. Even if it's not nighttime, even if you're indoors, you can see the position of all the stars in accurate positions. So how are they doing that? They're basically sticking a virtual dome over your head and sticking the stars in the virtual dome. How are they doing that? I think they're basing it off of the fact that there is a virtual dome over your fucking head. So imagine, if you will, you have this over your head. You can't see these lines, right? But this is where the stars and the sun and the moon in your little world are projected for you. And these computer programs are basically showing you that you have this virtual dome over your head. And this virtual dome goes with you wherever you go. And this is where you experience and see your stars, your sun, and your moon is inside your virtual dome or your circle of sight. One of the main reasons why the original flat Earth model, with its one singular circling sun, fails so miserably and is proven wrong so easily is because it uses a mean sun and or virtual sun, as in a not real sun. So the fact that it uses a virtual sun, it's not going to get the correct sunrise angles or sunset angles. I think what you're talking about was when Q and Phi models up how people think that maybe they can see stars in the actual dome. So I think what you're talking about is when Q and Phi models up that you're not seeing stars in a physical dome. All this stuff is actually more in a virtual dome around you. So we're going to get to that's coming up later in the video. I think the part that you're asking about is in this video and it's coming up. I'm pretty sure it's this part right here. We already saw this, so I'll skip through this part. There we go. Flat Earth map, and now you have locally the correct sunrise and sunset angles. You have proper working sun mechanics that you can verify with your own observations. Now, the same cannot be said for the debunked PSYOP version of the flat Earth, such as David Weiss's tracking app, which features one singular circling sun, the mean sun, the virtual sun, the not real sun. Yeah, his app is instantly debunked by the observable data. Dave has the sun doing circles in the month of December, and he has the sun positioned on the Tropic of Capricorn. Meanwhile, someone south of the Tropic of Capricorn, such as at the tip of South America, Ushuaia, for instance, they're going to be seeing the sun rise from the southeast and set to the southwest during that time of year, which is in the opposite direction shown on Dave's app. If this model was correct, then someone in Ushuaia, Argentina would never ever see the sun rise from the southeast and set to the southwest, but that is precisely what is observed in that location every single year in December. But according to Dave's incorrect debunked app, people in Ushuaia, Argentina would only be able to see a northeast sunrise and a northwest sunset.
Welcome to the land of Slow Cow, where life is too beautiful to rush.
At Lyft, we understand your lifelong pursuit of the perfect horizon. Every wave, every...
All right, y'all. So this is a basic debunk of the circling sun and Dave's app. So someone right here in Ushuaia, South America, in December, they're going to see the sun rise out of the southeast, set to the southwest. So it'll basically come up, go over their head, and set like this. Meanwhile, Dave's app shows the sun is on the Tropic of Capricorn to the north. So somebody down here in Ushuaia, South America, at the tip of Argentina, they would have to be looking north to see the sunrise and set. But instead, they see it coming from the south, the opposite direction. So this is a basic debunk of Dave's app, and he doesn't correct it, right? He doesn't admit that his app is bullshit and that it's wrong. And so this debunks Eric Dubay. This debunks Russian vids. And see, they'll deny this they'll just deny it. Whereas I've went and proved it by having people in these locations actually point their compass at the sun. So I've already proven that this information is accurate. Meanwhile, the shills keep fucking lying about it. And people who don't understand it, they just dismiss it because they're too dumb to get it. So a lot of people are just too dumb to even know what they're looking at, even though I explain it as simply as I can. This sun going around in a circle at this angle can never come up from the south for this person down here, which is what it has to do. This has been brought to David Weiss's attention. Dave knows his app is wrong. He doesn't care. He's making a ton of money selling that app, and he has no problem selling disinformation and profiting on it. In fact, that's his job. What I just broke down for you isn't in the Bible. The Bible won't tell you that David Weiss has a fucking wrong debunked app where he's depicting the sun doing something that it's not. The Bible won't tell you where the sun is supposed to come up on the equinox and where it's supposed to set. The Bible won't tell you any of that. So anyone coming at me like, oh, well, the Bible, this and that, the Bible ain't going to tell you where the sun's going to rise tomorrow. It won't tell you where it's going to rise in December. For that, you got to look at the observed data from people who have observed the sun and logged in the information for where it rises and where it sets for every location. The information is out there to debunk the disinformation, to debunk the shills, and furthermore, to debunk the globe. But you got to be smart enough to know what you're looking at. His job is to lead people down the wrong rabbit hole. Hence his name, Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. Oh, and let's not forget, he has recently done appearances on Roseanne Barr's podcast and InfoWars with Alex Jones, and every time he does one of these interviews or appearances, he is always showing off his app, he is always promoting his app, and it's a tracking app capable of data mining its users. I would recommend you do not download that app. I would recommend you delete that app if you have downloaded it, and you might even consider getting rid of your phone. Explain a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. All right, so here's the part that I'm really proud of. I am, to my knowledge, the only one. Me and Q and Fee, I should say, are the only ones to have a flat Earth model that explains the 24-hour sun and gets the sunrise and sunset angles correct. And you hear from guys like Jaron, you hear from guys like Will Duffy and MC Toon. There is no flat Earth model that can explain a 24-hour sun. That's bullshit, because I have the model that explains the 24-hour sun. And I used some of Q and Fee's work in my video, so he gets credit. So the two guys who can explain a 24-hour sun on a flat Earth is yours truly and Q and Fee. Pay close attention. Yes, it does. Does this model call for a 24-hour sun in Antarctica? Yes, it does.
Fleas and ticks are all around. Protect your pet with flea and tick meds at low prices every day. At Chewy.
And then I'll just show real quick while you're trying to find that. For SunCalc, they do show a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, and I'll show you how they show that on SunCalc. So if I drag it down here to Antarctica as far as it'll let me go, it won't let me go to the center of Antarctica. But this is about where Jaron is going to go for the experiment. And if I type in the dates, December 15th, see, it shows that the sun's going to go all the way around 24 hours right here. And so let me back up. So this is shown by SunCalc that somebody will see a 24-hour sun down here in Antarctica. And so if we just make our own theoretical model and we take this information and then stick it over the top of the AE map, we'll actually have a much better model. Even though it won't be 100% correct, it'll still be better than an AE map with a single circling sun. So right here, we can say that we have we can expect a 24-hour sun in Antarctica, and the Earth is flat, and we all see our own sun. And then Will Duffy can shove this up his ass. He won't be able to say, no, you're not allowed to use that. Who's he to tell us we can't use this?
That's right. You heard that correctly. This flat Earth model does call for a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. And in this flat Earth model, each observer sees their own sun, so it's not a problem at all. In fact, as you can see, the observer is standing on the flat level Earth. He looks up, he sees the sun, do a 360 over his head. Oh my God, Earth is still not a globe. That's right, Earth is still not a globe. That man is still standing on a flat level Earth. So therefore, Will Duffy's supposed final experiment is now null and void, because there is indeed a model which calls for a 24-hour sun in Antarctica. This also means that Jeranism is wrong, because he has been repeating over and over and over recently that there is not a single flat Earth model that can explain a 24-hour sun in Antarctica.
So I said that they were going to go down there, that they were going to see the 24-hour sun, and that's possibly just to be expected down there. And if we all see our own sun, then if there's a place on the map where you can see it for 24 hours, that doesn't mean that the Earth is a globe, right? So just because you see the sun do something doesn't mean that the Earth is a globe. And rather than try and scramble to explain it, me and Q and Fee, we just took the observed data, plug it in, and say, okay, if each person sees their own sun, then someone at the edge of the map, let's say, seeing their own sun, we don't know why that happens, but if that's what happens, then we can call it out and say, yeah, we think that they will see a 24-hour sun down there. So we actually did say that they were going to see the 24-hour sun, and then they did. Now, the question whether they faked it or not, whether they faked some of it, whether they faked all of it, that I can't say for sure. I don't know how much of their footage is totally fake versus how much of it might be real. Some of their footage does look legit. Some of it looks fake. So I personally can't tell you exactly where or how they got all their footage, whether they did some of it in the studio or all of it in the studio or what. But I was saying that they were going to see a 24-hour sun before they went. So once they came back and then people started calling it fake, that opened up a whole new can of worms that they may have faked it. But I was suggesting that they were going to see the 24-hour sun, and that rather than say that the flat Earth is then instantly debunked, we can just say, well, each person sees their own sun, and it doesn't prove that the Earth is curving. It doesn't prove that water's sticking to the outside of a globe. So simply seeing the sun do a 360 definitely does not prove that you live on a globe. Definitely does not prove that the Earth isn't flat. So we called it out, myself and Q and Phoebe, long before they went on the trip. We were calling it out 6 months in advance.
Well, guess what, Jaron? Now there is. So you and Will Duffy need to have a little talk about your supposed final experiment, because guess what? Now it's not just two choices. I have just entered a third choice into the equation. And anyone out there can also make their own model and fix these problems. So we could theoretically have 4, 5, 6, 7 choices. It doesn't have to be two choices. That's the false dichotomy that they set up for us, is that we only have two choices. So the whole reason I'm creating this theoretical model is not because I think I can do the impossible and create a perfect working model. No, I'm only creating this theoretical model to prove Will Duffy and Jeranism wrong. The act of seeing the sun do a 360 above your head does not mean that the oceans are magically curving around a spinning paroid in an infinite space vacuum. Seeing the sun go around in a circle above your head does not magically make the oceans start curving in all directions around a ball. So, this notion of a final experiment deciding whether the Earth is going to be a globe or flat is absolute nonsense.
Shopping for tires used to make me want to blow a gasket. That was before I went to TireRack.com.
We got one of these guys with one of his 2015 questions. Where is the edge footage? Where's the footage of the edge of outer space? Oh, are you telling me your outer space goes on forever and ever and ever and ever? But the flat Earth has to have an edge because you're too dumb to fucking think that maybe flat Earth can go on forever? Space can go on forever, but not the flat Earth? Yeah, where's the edge to your outer space? Show me the edge to outer space. Oh, you don't have a picture? Oh, it's because your magic outer space goes on forever. But you can't comprehend a fucking Earth that goes on forever, huh? See? You gotta think, this place ain't what we were told, so we might be barnyard animals stuck in a certain location on the map, not allowed to go where we want, right? You got to get permission just to leave your barnyard. And they get to know where you're going. How many people you know got a big old yacht who can go exploring, go check out the North Pole, go check out and make sure there ain't any extra pieces of land? How many people you know have the resources to go check this place out and see what it really is? Not many. In fact, the people who have those resources, yeah, they're probably connected back to the government. So, where's your footage?
All right, now let's switch gears and let's take it back to the stars in our own personal virtual dome. Now, a lot of flat earthers think that the stars are in a firmament, which is like a big glass type dome over the earth. Now, I don't know for sure whether there is a dome over the earth or not. This concept has nothing to do with a glass or a crystal or a diamond dome over the top of the earth. This dome right here is your own personal virtual dome in which you see the stars, in which you see all the luminaries, the sun, the moon, the stars, the planets, all of them are contained within your own personal virtual dome. So I don't think that the stars that I'm seeing are across the world in the Earth's firmament. I think that they are closer than that. However, I don't think that they are physical objects. So I don't think that I can get any closer to the stars by going forward or backward or any which way. They're always going to appear to be the same distance from me inside my virtual dome. Now I know some flat earthers are not going to be convinced by what I am showing, and they are going to maintain that they indeed see the stars within the firmament over the earth. Well, this notion is debunked, and I'm going to let Q and Fee explain this one because he's modeled it up and explained it just perfectly. Pay attention.
So if stars circling in a dome, this guy seeing stars through daylight because the sun is here. Don't you understand, piece of shit? On this model, on your biblical model, you have to see the star through daylight.
All right. So what Q and Fee just proved is that the stars are not in a physical dome. So people look at the flat Earth like it might be like the snow globe type dome over the top. And then there's been people like Eric Dubay, Russian vids, who have depicted the stars going around in a circle as if they're like stuck up there in the dome. Well, that's impossible because somebody would have to look all the way across the world into the dome through daylight. Look, if the sun's over here on this side of the world and it's daylight, and then someone over here, like this guy right here, is in nighttime, it's nighttime all around him. So how in the fuck would this guy look all the way across the world, tens of thousands of miles, and see stars in a dome through the daylight? It doesn't make any sense. So Q and Phi has debunked the notion that there are stars in the dome. Furthermore, if there were stars in the dome, you could travel south and get closer and closer to them. So if you went south in any direction, you would be getting closer to the dome, like Truman getting close to the walls of his studio. And then all these stars would get closer to you. So do you think you could travel to the dome and touch the stars on the wall? I don't think so. So what I suggest is that you're in a virtual dome, and no matter how far you walk, frontwards, backwards, south, north, no matter which direction you walk, you're not going to get closer to any of these stars. In fact, if you go south, you're going to see the southern stars come up out of the horizon. And then the stars that you're seeing now, they're going to go behind you into the horizon. So you're going to see, if you start walking south, stars come up out of the horizon. That's where you're going to see the southern stars. And so this can only happen inside of a virtual dome. It can't happen in a physical dome where you're seeing stars in the physical dome. You'd be seeing across the world through daylight. Those stars would be getting closer to you as you traveled to the south. If you got closer to the dome, all this stuff would get bigger and bigger. But it doesn't. So the stars don't get bigger and bigger. You don't get closer and closer to them. So if what I'm saying is true, it makes sense if everything's in a virtual dome, you're never going to get any closer to it. And it's in a virtual dome around you. So you're not having to see across the world like this. You're not having to see across the world through daylight if everything's in a virtual dome.
So I used to think it was possible that maybe the stars circled around in the firmament over the earth, but after Q and Phi smashed that notion to pieces, I don't think that anymore. So I had to come up with something else. And this works much better. By adopting a personal virtual dome, I no longer have to worry about which way the star trails are going to spin across the world on the walls of the firmament. Let's face it, flat earthers have always had trouble explaining the southern star trails going the opposite direction on an AE map. Well, that's no longer a problem with your own virtual dome and each observer seeing their own personal stars. An observer north of the equator will see the star trails appear to circle around Polaris in a counterclockwise motion. Now we are on the outside looking inside on this demonstration, so don't anyone get confused about the stars going in a clockwise motion. You have to put yourself in the little man's shoes on the inside. You have to become the little observer in the center of the virtual dome.
Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to fix what was considered to be the fatal flaw in the AE map and model as far as the stars are concerned. One of the debunks that the Globers would bring up is, how do you see the stars going in the opposite direction on a flat Earth? If you look to the south, you'd be looking in different directions and you'd see an opposite star trail spin. Well, when you have a virtual dome like I'm suggesting over the top of you, an opposite star trail spin is really easy to explain. Whereas if you think that the stars are going in a circle in a physical dome, well, that is impossible. That gets debunked. So I actually fixed the fatal flaw in the model. You didn't see Eric Dubé do this. You didn't see Mark Sargent do this. You didn't see Jaron do this. I fixed the fatal flaw in the model, and I did it with what I learned from Q and Phi.
And if you do that, you will see the stars going around in a counterclockwise motion. Now, if we go to the equator, you will see the stars appear to go over you like this. So this is for an observer at the equator.
So on the equator, this is when you're going to see the stars appear to go over you like this, right? So instead of seeing them spin around a spot, you're going to see all of them just go right over the top of you like this.
What if I told you that Apple stock has gone up every single year on January 6th for the last decade? Look.
And of course, this is
the
what
southern
the
star.
star trails will look like for an observer south of the equator. If you look at the southern star trails, they are going to go in the opposite direction of the trails in the north. And so in this demonstration, you can see the observer is seeing a clockwise star rotation. Now, this solves a huge problem that has plagued the flat Earth for many years. Globers will claim that an observer in South America, Southern Africa, and Australia will all be seeing the southern star trails in the nighttime sky. And they claim this is a debunk of the flat Earth model because it would be impossible for all those stars to be spinning the opposite direction.
So right here, this always was a debunk of this model. And you had guys, shills like Eric Dubay, like Russian Vids, who would make excuses. So someone looking south right here is going to see the southern star trails spinning the opposite of somebody looking at the stars in the north. But the thing is, you could be looking south in 3 different directions and be seeing this opposite star trail. And so this was never able to be explained if one set of stars is just going in a circle. And so guys like Eric Dubay, they'd be like, oh, perspective, which is bullshit. Just saying the word perspective doesn't fucking fix it. And so this was considered to be a debunk until I came along and fixed it with my virtual dome.
And have 3 different sets of stars looking in 3 different directions, all spinning in the opposite direction than the star trails in the north going around Polaris. So many flat earthers have resorted to lying and spinning disinformation to solve this problem, but now it is no longer a problem, and let me demonstrate why. Let's place an observer at the southern tip of South America. Make sure he's in his own personal dome, and look at that. We have the star trails going in the correct direction. Now let's put this observer in South Africa. And guess what? We have the star trails going in the correct direction. Check, check. Now all we need is one more observer in Australia, mate, to throw another shrimp on the barbie, because he sees the star trails going in the correct direction now as well. So I believe I have just solved one of the biggest dilemmas in the history of flat Earth. Now you have all of the star trails going in the correct direction for the observer.
See, so when you take an observer, he's standing on the flat Earth, got your virtual dome. Now the star is going the opposite direction than in the north. There's not a problem because it's all taking place in here instead of all the stars circling across over your head like this in a big gigantic circle. That would be impossible. When you scale everything down, then it works. So everything that you see in the sky works locally. And all the sunrise angles and moonrise angles, the positions of the stars, it all works perfect locally when you scale it down and zoom in. But if you back up over the whole Earth and you try and have all these stars just going around in a circle, that won't work. So this is why I come to the conclusion that this stuff has to be in a virtual dome. And this fixes the problem of the southern star trails being seen in different directions in the south, going the opposite way of the north. So I am the only flat earther to take this problem on and fix it. And I was able to do it because of the work that Q and Fee did. So Q and Fee gets credit for my work because I wouldn't have been able to figure this out without Q and Fee helping me figure it out. So Eric Dubay didn't figure this out. Jaron will tell you there is no model that explains this. Oh, but there is now, you see?
and the Earth is still flat, not a globe. And just like that, I have improved and corrected many of the issues that have plagued the old, broken down, debunked version of the flat Earth. And now we have a sun that rises and sets just like we see and experience. We have correct sunrise and sunset angles. We have the proper amount of daylight hours, and we have those pesky southern star trails figured out. This video is getting really long, so in the next video, I'll go ahead and solve the problem with one singular circling moon. But for now, let's just be happy with the fact that this flat Earth model cannot be debunked by Will Duffy and his nonsense experiment in Antarctica.
And I want to point out, not a single shill has dared mess with those videos. So those might seem like crazy concepts. You would think that the Globers would be attacking me, but they don't. They don't attack me. You know why? It's because those sunrise and sunset angles that I have on the map are correct. So all of the things that they would use to go after a flat Earth with a singular circling sun, they can't use that. So they can't come at me and say I've got the sun or the moon wrong. So none of the flat earthers have dared mess with it. None of the globe earthers have come after me. In fact, they've been so quiet, it's almost like they don't want anyone to talk about it. Which makes me think I've hit the mark. I think I'm right over the bullseye with what I have shown. Mr. Meaner says, Jake, buy Q and Fee a coffee from me. Okay, thanks. I don't know if he has a way for me to donate or not. He's one of those guys that just makes videos out of the kindness of his heart, so he doesn't really get super chats or anything. So I don't even know if there's a way for me to send it to him or not. He'd probably have to go create like a PayPal or something for himself. I don't even know if he has one. Thank you very much, Mr. Meaner. All right. So yeah, guys, the Globe Cucks, you'd think they'd have a field day with that and make a bunch of hit piece videos. Nope, they haven't. You'd think the other flat earthers come after me. No, they haven't done that either. You'd think there'd be flat earthers out there who'd praising my work, showing it. Not that either. Interesting how I fixed some of the fatal flaws, have the best working flat earth model, right? With the best visuals, the best information, the most well explained. Nobody in the flat earth community wants to talk about it. Huh. No, Polaris would not always be in view. So once you start walking to the south, that's going to go behind you. And then the southern stars are going to come up out of the horizon, right? So the further you walk south, that's when the southern stars, they're going to come up out of the horizon. And then they'll be up for you to see, right? So you can't see the Southern Cross from where I live in the United States. But let's just say there was like a pathway out into the ocean. If I was to just keep walking south, and I could just keep walking or take a boat or whatever, or just keep going far enough. Suddenly in my virtual dome, those southern stars are going to come up out of the horizon and then be visible. And the northern stars are going to go behind me and tuck into the horizon. So basically in your virtual dome, the stars are going to come up or go down depending on where you're at. So in your own virtual dome, depending where you're at on the map is where you're going to see those stars. That's why I showed you how in the northern hemisphere, you're going to see the counterclockwise rotation versus the clockwise rotation in the south, versus if you're on the equator, you're going to see the stars go straight up and over you from side to side. That's why I showed the difference in location, what you would see. And then I showed how each observer in the south pointing in different directions would be looking at the Southern Cross, even in different directions, But that wouldn't be a problem if you're in a virtual dome. All right. So now I want to show you how the information on SunCalc, which the Globers will say matches the globe perfectly, they're lying. The SunCalc information can be used to debunk the globe, and QNFE has debunked the globe using SunCalc, and none of the fucking Globers have responded. Craig has threatened to make a video about QNFE, never did it. MC Toon make a video about QNFE, never did it. QNFE has debunked these dudes, bent them over and spanked their ass like 20 times each or more, and they won't say his name. Why not? Are they too afraid? The answer is yes. The globe cucks seem to be afraid of QNFE. They don't seem to want to mess with him or his globe modeling or his modeling software in general. They just don't seem to want to mess with him. So they just ignore him and don't say his name. So tonight, I'm going to try and force the issue. I'm going to show you QNFE debunking the globe, and I'm going to challenge Jaren, MC Toon, Fight the Fat Ass Craig, Simon Dan. I'm going to challenge all of them to see if they can dare respond to QNFE, if they have the balls to respond to QNFE and attempt to debunk him. But before we get to QNFE's video, let me show a funny video that he made about Jaren. And while I use the restroom real quick. So let me put on a funny video real quick, and then we'll get to the serious video. All right. So this is QNFE's, whoops. This is QNFE's most recent funny video. No curve.
Yeah.
There we go.
Island breeze and drama, you know. It's the story of Missa and her planky flow. Missa walk in like a board from the dock. No hips swinging straight as a block. But Jerron say that's my queen. No curves at all, but she keep it clean. She don't whine, she don't bend, but he hold her tight like she heaven sent. Say Mrs. My lady, don't care if she flat, even if she shaped like a doormat. Plank no hips, but she still got tricks, while Jerron out sending unsolicited pics. Subscriber shock, saying what is this? Plank in the bed, but the drama's thick. Plank no hips, but she playing bold. Another man in her sheets, truth be told. Jerron smile wide while the tea gets spilled. Internet blaze like the vibes he killed. Now Missa, she gone for a midnight ride, saying Jerron, don't wait, I'll be back by 5. But 5 turned 7, then it turned 10, and she walking humming, I met a real man again. Jerron on YouTube, vibe real strange, sending out wood like he building a stage. Fans say, bro, that ain't right, but he doubled down like, yeah, I might. Plank no hips, but the story thick. Drama drip drop like a leaky stick. Missa got moves, but not from the waist, while Jerron send lumber at record pace. Plank no hips, still she get that play. Jerron look lost like night and the day, saying love is love, even if it's flat. But the whole world laughing, and that's a fact. Raise your glass to the couple so bold. Planky Missa in the pics he sold. No hips, no shame, just vibes and flames in the reggae book of internet games. Yeah, plank love, baby. One love, one board, one very weird world.
All right. Okay. There's this. I'm going to have to address this dud guy who's acting like I'm personally avoiding his Bible information. I'm not a Bible thumper. If you tell me, Jake, go read the Bible and all your flat earth information is in there and every question can be answered, I don't believe you. I think you're wrong. Show me the verse where it talks about anything that I've fucking mentioned as far as where the sun rises and sets and the azimuth and each person seeing their own sun. It doesn't say that in any verse. So if you extrapolate all kinds of shit from the Bible, hey, cool for you. Some people think that the Bible literally word for word is God's words. I don't think that. I'm not a Bible thumper. So if you tell me, Jake, Bible, the Bible, I don't care, dude. What I'm showing you is the work that I found, okay? So if you think I'm going to stop what I'm doing now and then go start thumping the Bible just because you're saying so, like this right here. The reason it's frustrating is because I've been mentioning this to Jake for ages. Yeah, dude, you think you're the only one that tells me, Jake, you need to read the Bible. Jake, you need to find Jesus. Jake, you need Jesus. Dude, I've never been a Bible thumper. I've never been a Jesus guy. Tons of people who are Christians follow me. I don't have anything bad to say about them, but you can't expect me to just turn into like Mr. Jesus Bible thumper overnight. If it hasn't happened in the last 9 years, what makes you think it's going to happen? I don't think that religious books are written by gods. I think they're written by men to control men. I don't like religious books, and I don't like religions. Okay? I don't know what to tell you. I'm not a religious guy. I try and figure all this shit out myself, and I don't look to books written by other men, because most all the books written by other men have been fucking lies to control men's mind. Science books, religious books. You know, the thing about all you religious honks is you have to say that your religion's the right one and everyone else's religion is wrong. See? Every religious person thinks that their religion is 100% right and they know everything. And everyone else who has any other religion, 100% wrong, and they're duped and everything they think is wrong. But you've got it all figured out. God. Seriously. And now, like, I'm a bad guy if I don't stop right now and like read the Bible from start to finish right now out loud for you right here, right now. I'm some sort of bad guy. It doesn't say the earth is flat. Each person sees their own sunrise. On the equinox, everyone's going to see like a 90-degree east sunrise, and that's impossible on a globe. So therefore it's flat. Does it say that? No, it doesn't. So let's not act like what I'm talking about here is all mentioned word for word in the Bible, because it's not. I don't even have to read it to know that. All right. Frank Castle says, what do you think about Gnosticism? Church fought it. I honestly had to look it up, dude. Sometimes, like, I'm like, what the hell does that mean again? A modern form of Egyptian religion that is a group of religious ideas from around the 1st century. Yeah, I don't know what to make of the Egyptian shit, and because I know a lot of occult symbolism uses Egyptian symbology. When I go to a casino, there's a lot of Egyptian symbology. When you go to Las Vegas, there's, the pyramid, the Luxor in Las Vegas. So it's like this occult symbology ties back to the Egyptian shit. And then I wonder about, we're lied to about history so much. So then I have to like question what we're told about ancient Egyptians and pharaohs and the pyramids and, and all that stuff. So the timelines you know, what went down in history with all these ancient cultures. I question all of it, from how the buildings that they made were supposedly made, you know, when they made them, how they made them. Like, there's so much to question that I can't put my finger on what happened more than a couple hundred years ago. So anything that happened more than a couple hundred years ago, I'm like, I don't know. They lied about the past so much so that I don't feel confident about any of it. You know what I mean? I can't go back to much farther than before I was born with confidence. Just the pyramids in Egypt, questionable as fuck, you know? So the pyramids themselves, I start thinking, okay, I'm thinking like wet rock cement, maybe only a couple hundred years old. But they tell us that those are, you know, thousands and thousands of years old, and that they were made, you know, with chisels and primitive tools and shit. So I don't believe jack shit about what we're told about the past. So when it comes to ancient religions and ancient ideas, fuck, man, ancient knowledge, who knows what's real and what's not. All right. So let me get to the video where Q and Feed debunks the globe with the sun calc information, and then I'll start laying the challenges out to the shills, see if any of them dare respond. All right, Dud, you're getting a little overbearing, bro. You're just so disappointed in me, and I've just been such a bad guy for not listening to you completely tonight. You got 500 people here. Everyone's got an opinion, but I've got to stop what I'm doing and listen to you. Otherwise, I'm a bad guy, right? I don't know. You rubbed me the wrong way tonight, Dud. Maybe you should say less and listen more. Last time I checked, the Bible didn't debunk the globe with the equinox information, but Q and Fee has. So why don't you listen up? Maybe you'll learn something. This ain't in the fucking Bible, by the way. This ain't going to be in any religious book, by the way. So pay attention. You might learn something.
Welcome to Tuesday Night. I'm MC Toon. You know, for years, flat earthers have filled bathtubs full of tears because they don't have a map that works.
For years, ballers filled our bathtubs with bullshit because they think they have a model.
Awake Souls and Limitless tried one where the equator was wavy all over the place. That was ridiculous. And it teleported you. That's silly. Well, I don't know. We'll see. Daz Nez had one that was in the shape of a diamond. I don't know how that fits with his Bible version, but it seemed a little silly there too. Well, and of course, Arwen uses the Mercator map.
Oh, now you were mentioning a couple of guys that are retards or are just chills that have no reality in their fucking head.
But what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do what no flat earther has the guts to do since Tiger Dan.
Oh, Tiger Dan. Yeah, I remember him. Also a shield. Just a freaking moron. I showed him his circling mean son cannot work over the flat earth. And he totally ignored it, of course. Moron.
I'm going to show you a flat earth map, and it's going to be based on observation. Sorry, I caught myself. Observations. I gotta be serious. So what better day to celebrate a map based on observations on the equinox than on the day after the equinox?
Okay, and one baller says Andrew Tate exposed the Matrix. We need to escape it. Andrew Tate is a fucking stupid shill bitch. Anyone's listening to Andrew Tate, you're lost. So I'm not sure what you saw, but that guy's a fucking clown. He's in the big club. He's a world stage actor. And all you need to do is watch the video where he says, "Would you rather sleep with Hulk Hogan with a vagina or Megan Fox with a dick?" Now, a lot of people are going to say Megan Fox, but I would rather sleep with Hulk Hogan with a vagina, right? So him asking if you want to fuck Hulk Hogan's vagina or Megan Fox with a dick is basically the type of clown that he is. That's all you need to know about the guy. They position clowns like that as like some sort of role model for young men, you know, like, oh, he gets all the bitches because he tells you, you know, how shitty women are, so you should listen to him. So yeah, and then they had him do his humiliation ritual where he supposedly gets busted for trafficking, right? And so the fact that he's all over the mainstream news and he's like one of those characters who almost everyone's heard of, every young man's heard of, that's by design. So I wouldn't listen to Andrew Tate at all. I wouldn't listen to a goddamn thing he has to say.
So I am going to show you how it's done and what flat earthers don't have the guts to do.
Which flat earthers you mean, retard? Oh, your silly teammate flat earthers. Yeah, but I modeled it up like 100 times. But your tiny retard flat earth friends keep ignoring me. Piece of shit.
You can try to claim all sorts of things about holograms, about light paths, about it's just a light in the sky. None of that actually works.
Your retard silly flat earth friends come up with all kind of bullshit because they want the people to believe in that bullshit. You understand, moron?
Because this is not kindergarten, right? The things that you say are going to be tested.
It's time you start to test your globe, idiot. But you refuse to do that, but I will do that later on, idiot.
And they better be ready to stand up to the test. And if they're not, be mature, accept that you were wrong. Find some other explanation.
Yeah, that's exactly what you baltards do.
Test it. And when you run out of all the explanations, when you've tested everything, don't hold on irrationally to some ridiculous belief.
Oh yeah, they hold on tight to the beliefs, just like the ballers do, moron?
About the shape of the earth, when you have no evidence for it, when there's nothing that actually matches reality. You don't get a choice on this. Observational reality tells us things, and we must follow them. We don't get to interject our own decisions into it. When it comes,
Misanthropic. Q and Fee has showed his face a couple different times. I had him on. In fact, I showed his face earlier. We've done live streams where he shows his face the whole time, and he was in the video that I showed earlier. So you should know what he looks like. So this is MC Toon talking about how flat earthers don't have a working model, and then Q and Fee is going to go on to debunk the globe model. But guess what? MC Toon never responded. Fight the Fat Ass Craig, he never responded. Simon Dan never responded. So everyone pay attention here. You're going to see this punk right here get totally lit up, and he's yet to respond, but he acts like he's like Mr. Flat Earth Debunker.
Contradicts our own wishes. We must be honest. We must be rational and follow the actual evidence.
Honest and rational. Idiot. Now we get 8 minutes of bullshit talk. Why the so-called equinox not work on the flat earth models? But he not look into his own model.
We know that in Sweden and in Norway that the sun rises due east. And so this is from dateandtime.com or one of the online things.
That site is called suncoke.net.
Now you'll see that it angles up a tiny bit. The reason why.
Yeah, tell us the reason why. Why it points up a little bit.
Is because this is showing the direction of the top edge of the sun, not the geometric center of the sun.
That's just bullshit. All these apps use the center of the sun, you idiot. You are fucking fraud. All these websites use the center of the sun.
That's all that was the option for this website. So if you actually look at the geometric center of the sun, so when the geometric center of the sun is visible, it is not slightly north of due east, it's right at due east. And then same thing for South Africa.
So you're showing these two locations. That's not possible on your globe. You understand? So that's at the 70 latitude north. Have an azimuth of 87.36. That's 1.7 degrees from 90. And at the same moment, here in South Africa, we see an angle of 91.37.
With the data from real life.
All right. So let me explain this real quick, just in case anyone's getting confused. So this is the equinox, March 21st, the spring equinox, when everyone sees the sun rise from about 90 degrees east and set to about 270 west. Now, it won't be exactly 90 degrees east for everyone. It'll be off by ever so slightly a degree or two. And the thing is, from north to south, these angles are going to be diverging away from each other. So this angle right here at 91 degrees and this angle right here at 87 degrees, instead of being parallel with each other, they're both slightly diverging away from each other. So if they were both 90 degrees, both these angles would be parallel with each other. But since they're both off, this one's 87 degrees, and then this one's 91. What you have is a slight diversion of the two angles. The reason why that's important is because these angles, if you draw them off of the Earth, if you take the Earth and you have it as a ball, as a globe, and then you take these angles to the sun and you draw them 93 million miles out in space, what you're going to end up with are these two angles getting farther and farther and farther and farther apart. So these diverging angles are going to be going to two different suns out in outer space.
And at the same moment, here in South Africa, we see an angle of 91.37.
With the data from real life, you get conflicting positions for the sun.
Everyone has a personal sun. That's so weird.
Yeah, everyone has to have a personal sun. They have to for this to work. But if you put that same data onto a globe, and I'll speed this up a bit. You put that exact same data from real life onto a globe, And what you find is it all points in the same direction, as though the sunlight
Right,
is
so-
coming in parallel, right? So in this case, if the real world data mapped onto a globe, boom, all pointing in the same direction, less than 1 degree variance.
So, less than 1 degree variance. Yeah, I show 3 degrees variant.
So these are parallel lines if they were both exactly 90 degrees. But as we saw on the equinox, we were getting a slight variance. So it wasn't exactly 90 degrees, right? So we saw that they were off by a couple degrees, is off of 90. So we ended up with two lines that were diverging away from each other. So the farther that these lines go out into space, and the sun is said to be 93 million miles away, if you draw these two lines 93 million miles away and they're diverging away from each other, what you're going to end up with is two fireball suns millions of miles apart. And as we all know, there are not two fireball suns in the globe model, but there would have to be in order for these angles to be correct that they're giving us on SunCalc.
From north to south. Where is your sun, idiot? I have here the data in the globe modeling program with the two locations. That's at least 2.5 sun diameters.
With 2 observation points, you could triangulate where the sun is.
That's at least 3 million kilometers. Distance between the two. And on the flat Earth, that will be only a couple of thousand kilometers between the two.
With 2 observation points, you could triangulate where the sun is.
All right. So you guys see we took this observation point at the top of the globe. We took this observation point in South Africa. These angles, like I said, are diverging away from each other. They aren't parallel. So the fact that these angles are diverging away from each other, when you draw them 93 million miles, or you model it up like Q&F's done, you end up with two suns, millions of miles apart. And that obviously is not what the globe model says. The globe model doesn't say that there's two suns, but this is the information from SunCalc. See this angle? Not exactly 90 degrees. And this angle, not exactly 90 degrees. Ever so slightly diverging away from each other. And when you draw these lines out into space, 93 million miles, you're going to end up with two suns, millions of miles apart. This is a globe model debunk using the SunCalc info.
Angles become wider. Everything is to scale in this program. Sun, moon, earth, everything. It's very precise, so to say. So where is the sun? On your model. Try to explain away the bullshit with refraction, because there is no refraction when the sun or another celestial body is that low. No refraction.
So this right here, imagine this is the Earth, this little tiny thing. And then they see the sun up here and they see a sun down here. So this was the sunrise and sunset angles modeled up from the Earth, 93 million miles. So Q&F has the dimensions all set up here. This is the Earth with the sunrise angles going back to the sun on the equinox, and you end up with the two suns. So basically, this is the Earth, and here's the two angles that he modeled up. And if you draw it 93 million miles out into space, you're going to end up with two suns millions of miles apart. This is a hardcore globe debunk. And he showed that there's no refraction, so you can't use refraction as an excuse.
Done.
Yeah, like I showed a minute ago on your retard ball. You should research your own ball instead of pointing to other maps or people or doing your retard shit, you fucking morons.
But if you
Weird.
put that same data onto a globe, and I'll speed this up a bit, you put that exact same data from real life onto a globe, and what you find is it all points in the same direction, as though the sunlight is coming in parallel, right?
No, not right. You don't see sunlight. You see a physical sun everywhere. You look like flat earthers. They also talk about seeing the light. No, I see a physical sun. 90 degrees east over a full longitude.
See, so this is the globe lie that says all these people are seeing straight parallel lines, observation lines to one big giant sun. So the globe lie wants you to believe everyone's just looking at a big giant sun. But when you actually take these angles that are diverging away from each other, actually model them up 93 million miles out in space, it does not go back to one big sun. You end up with two suns. And we all know there ain't two suns.
How many 90 degrees you have? Each location have its own 90 degrees east, of course. Otherwise, it's not 90 degrees east anymore.
So in this case, if the real world data mapped onto a globe, boom, all pointing in the same direction, less than 1 degree variance.
So we've got this little bit of a problem, and here's the solution.
Oh, you have a solution. Yeah, a retard solution, moron. But before you show your solution, I have some other problem for you. The globe claim. Let's say you are on the 90 degrees north, on the North Pole. And you see the sun just around the horizon. And then you move 10 latitudes down. Then the sun rises for your vision with like 10 degrees. That would be something like this. You have to tilt your head up 10 degrees more to see the sun. That's logic. Gives a 10 degrees change in the sun's altitude. So that's the globe claim. But that's not always true. So let's move 90 degrees west of this location. So let's move to these guys here. That is 90 degrees west from where the sun is overhead. So it would be logic when we move down on the latitudes, the sun will go higher, of course. That's what happened on the globe, of course. So now I'm looking east on the North Pole. Let's change 10 degrees of altitude south. Oh, hold on. Same altitude. Let's move to the 70th latitude. Oh, 70 latitude. It doesn't change. It should change 20 degrees. Let's move 10 degrees lower to the 60th. Oh, the 60 latitude. And it didn't change. That can only happen on a flat Earth, of course, not on a globe Earth. That would be a flat Earth with local suns. You can only explain this away with top bullshit. Don't you think so? More.
All right, so there's QMP using the information from SunCalc and using these angles of the sunrise, modeling it up, and then showing that these angles diverting away from each other are both based on the center of the sun. So when you follow these angles 93 million miles out in space, you end up with two suns millions of miles away, which of course the globe model does not have two suns. So anyone who claims that this information is globe information, which all the globers do claim that, how come Q and Phi just used this information to debunk the globe? And how come this shill right here never responded to Q and Phi? This shill right here has never responded to Q and Phi. How come after 10, 15, 20 videos, Q and Phi's debunked these dudes, they've never once responded? So I'm going to go ahead and do an open challenge to MC Toon, Fight the Fat Ass Craig, and Jaren, because Jaren is now a globe cuck. Hey, Jaren, if you're watching, let's see if you can debunk this. Yeah, let's see if you can debunk Q's modeling, where he takes the equinox angles from South Africa and up top of the globe here, and he takes these two angles, draws them 93 million miles out in space, ends up with two fireball suns. Yeah, let's see you debunk this information, Jaren. So as it stands, Q and Phi has made this video years ago. Not one single globe cuck has attempted to debunk this. So we'll see if I force the issue. Force those guys to look at this information, if they'll bring it up. Chances are they're going to pretend they didn't see it. Jaren's going to ignore this. He's going to keep saying, Flat Earth can't explain the 24-hour sun. Guys, there is no working flat Earth model. You guys, the Earth can't be flat. Yeah, well, according to SunCalc and that info, it can't be a globe. So let's see Jaren or any glober try and make a video debunking Q and Phi. Nobody's done it yet. Chances are they're just going to ignore it and act like none of this ever happened. All right. There you go. I made it through the information I wanted to make it through. And I know this can be a confusing topic. Not everyone's going to understand. I get it. I try to make it as easy as I can to understand, but it is a heavy subject and it can be a bit confusing. So if you need to go back and rewatch any of this information in order to fully grasp what I'm trying to show you, please do that. And I want to apologize if I get a little irritated and testy. It's because I've been talking about this subject for a long time. There's a lot of people lying, still lying. And there's a lot of people who just push whatever they make up off the top of their head. There's a lot of people who, they watch, some guy with a moon map and then they repeat that shit. And then there's guys who watch RV and repeat what he says. There's guys still repeating what Eric Dubé says. So there's a lot of people repeating a lot of debunked shit. And I've been correcting everyone's debunked shit for a long time and telling people that it's wrong for a long time. So I get frustrated having to repeat this information over and over again and people still not get it. But if you can get over the fact that that I get frustrated and you really look into what I'm showing you, you will come to the conclusion this place isn't what they told you. I'm not lying to you. I'm giving it to you as best as I can, as honestly as I can bring you this information. Once you come to the conclusion this place isn't what they told you, then you got to ask yourself, how many people are even talking about this? How many people are really talking about like what this place is, how it could be working and trying to piece together these pieces to this puzzle? There's not many guys. You got me, you got Q and Phi, who else do you really got trying to piece this puzzle together without leading you astray, without lying to you? So that's where my channel is separated from the rest of the pack. And I get frustrated because I've been having to put up with shills and disinformation and people saying wrong shit for a long time. And so, yeah, this subject can definitely be frustrating at times. So if you hear me getting a little pissed off when I talk about this subject, it's because I've had to put up with a lot of shit over the years when it pertains to this subject. All right. Oh yeah, one last thing I wanted to show you guys. The green flash on sunset. And how it kind of ties back into this place not being what we're told. All right. So there's certain places where you see a green flash when the sun sets. And so what would cause it? You know, there's mainstream science that'll give you an answer, but we know mainstream science lies. So what is causing the sun to have a green flash, right?
There are businesses.
Oh man, get up here. This is definitely going. This is going. Come on.
Not the best. Let's find a better one. There's some better examples. All right. So you get this green flash certain locations in the world during sunset. And so if this place isn't what we're told, if the sun isn't a gigantic fireball, that one sucks. Some of them are better than others. Oh, that one's cool. There it is.
Ages ago. Yep.
So you never did hear, you know, any of the flat earthers like Eric Dubay or Mark Sargent or anyone ever try to say what causes a green flash. Like if the sun was just going in a circle, well, what's going to cause it to have a green flash like that, right? Whereas if we're in some sort of a matrix computer-like construct, if this place isn't what we're told and it's some sort of computer simulation realm, virtual reality, well, then suddenly a green flash isn't quite as weird anymore, right? Come on, motherfucker. Gonna have the longest commercial ever. There we go.
I was a young kid when a friend told me she had seen a green flash. Wow, could there really be a green flash?
Yeah, see, according to Russian vids, Eric Dubay, the sun's just coming at you and going away from you. Well, then what's causing the green flash? And it definitely ain't shrinking into a dot in any of these shots, right? So the globe model is going to give you their excuse. But I think this kind of like lends itself to the evidence that we've looked at the beginning of this stream, that perhaps this is some sort of a matrix computerized simulation, virtual reality construct of sorts. So then seeing this green flash isn't quite as weird if you think that you live in a computerized construct, right?
The naked eye, but the camera can. Although there is a small chance you might see a green flash behind a distant cloud or ridge, by far the best place to look for it is open water with a free horizon.
During sunrise or sunset over the ocean, a rare optical phenomenon known as the green flash can occur, where a brief flash of green light appears on the horizon. The exact cause and conditions that lead to this phenomenon are still not fully understood. During sun
So what exactly causes the green flash? I couldn't tell you. But I do know that this realm isn't what we're told. And so I'm more inclined to believe, something that I come up with rather than mainstream science. So whatever mainstream science says, I'm just going to probably go, and dismiss that. And instead, I'm going to be left wondering, what really causes that, right? So I'm going to trust my intuition when it comes to some of these unexplainable things, because I know for a fact mainstream science lies. They lied about what this place is. So stuff like, green flashes and anomalies in the sky leaves you wondering, okay, well, what is it really? Because it's definitely not just a gigantic fireball 93 million miles away that just happens to make a green flash. So even simple questions like that can leave you stumped. And who's really going to give you the answer? Who do you trust to give you that answer? Well, I think this place is magical in a lot of ways, So the stuff we see the sun and the moon doing in the sky, you could argue that that's magical. But then somebody who doesn't think it's magical because they think it's a fireball and a gray rock and it's just a big coincidence that it looks that way. To them, it wouldn't be magical. But see, if it's not a gigantic fireball sun and it's not a gray rock, then when you look at those things and you see the fact that they appear to be the same size, they eclipse each other just perfect, what other term besides magical are you going to use to describe that? So I feel like, yes, we do live in a magical realm, but that's because I don't look at it like a regular person. A regular person's not going to look at this place and see it as being magical because they've been told that the sun's a gigantic fireball, the moon's just a gray rock, and they just happen to eclipse each other because of a cosmic coincidence. So they take the magic out of this magical realm by feeding you the lie. If you believe in the lies that they tell you, it makes this place seem like it's not magical, like it's just whatever. It's just a regular old coincidence that this is the way it happened to be. Yes, Jason and Ronnie believe a similar thing, but Jason and Ronnie are fucking liars and homosexuals. So I don't like to talk about them. There's no reason to even bring them up because they're fucking liars and homosexuals. Why do we want to talk about two homosexuals who live together and then lie about me and Q and Fee. They literally slander me. They literally slander Q and Fee. They've slandered us more times than I can remember. So why should we even talk about them at all? They can go fuck themselves for life. So the fact that they talk about something similar, yeah, they're also homosexuals who lie. So the fact that there's a couple homo shills who like to gatekeep the subject and make it look homo at the same time, yeah, let's just dismiss those guys and forget about them. They don't matter. That's why I don't like to bring them up. Had they not been such insufferable twats who slandered me and my friend Q and Fee, well, then I would, invite them on for a conversation. I would treat them with respect, but they don't deserve any respect because they're slanderous, lying homosexuals. RJ Cranston says, Jake, honest talk here. I unsubbed from you years ago from the whole jizzin' lying about you campaign. Glad I resubbed to you recently. You the man. You wouldn't be the only one. Jaron convinced a lot of people that I was a bad guy. And then, Eric Dubé put me on a shill list. Russian Vids, says that I'm here to make the flat earth look stupid. Flat Earth Banjo says that I'm a shill. So yeah, a lot of shills tried to discredit me and throw me under the bus many, many times over and over again. And I'm still standing here, still telling the truth. So their attempts didn't work. And anyone who listened to them, well, that's their loss because they're the ones still following liars. So anyone who, decided that Jaron was the one to follow and that I wasn't, well, they quickly found out that I was right. And a lot of them have come over and let me know. Oh, I'm sorry, Jake. Yeah, when you said Jaron was a shill, I didn't believe you at first. But since he went to Antarctica and drank Will Duffy's jizz, well, I guess you are right, Jake. So sorry. So yeah, you wouldn't be the first guy to come along and apologize and let me know I was right. Here's the thing. I called Jaron a shill back in 2017. So I've been calling him out as a shill for a long time. So, hey, the fact that you came to your senses, that's what matters, right? As long as you're not still over there following him. That's the good news. No. It's QNFE. Like this. So QNFEE. That's Q and Fee's channel name. And then he also has Q and Fee with an apostrophe S. Q and Fees. Shish Kebab says Jaron is the shilliest shill. Right now, he's like the main shill. He's fixing a flip-flop on the moon landing. He runs a We Used to Be Flat stream, interviewing former flat earthers about how they used to be flat earthers. It's pretty ridiculous. Pretty terrible. Misanthropic says, I don't think Jaron has any actual fans anymore. They are all shills, both sides. Think he's a joke. He has some hardcore globe cucks who are like over there defending him. So if you show up and say anything negative to Jaron, you'll get a glober who will show up and call you a flurf. So if you say anything about Jaren, there's like some accounts that are like sworn to protect him that'll show up and be like, not as bad as all you retarded flurfs. The flurfs are the most retarded. Jaren is a stand-up guy who's always honest. So he's got these like bot accounts. I don't know, these hardcore devoted shills who fucking will defend him at all costs. But his crowd has significantly decreased. He's lost like 5,000 subs in the last few months. So yeah, his live streams are tanking. He doesn't get that many people watching. He gets about half of what we get over here now. So yeah, his globe Earth audience is shrinking, and his flat Earth audience, they already split. "33 years old," says, "This stream is changing my life." Yeah, of course, you got to have the 33, right? You had to pick that as your name. All right, I think I'm going to get off here. I pretty much got through what I wanted to get through tonight. I wanted to talk about how this place might be, you know, matrix, computerized reality of sorts, not what we're told, and then tie that in with the flat earth information that I've brought to you guys. And so now that I've done that, I'm pretty much done for the night. I'm getting a little tired and hungry, and I think my dog wants to go on a walk. So I think after I read this last super chat, I'm gonna go ahead and get on out of here. Lemming in a shiny metal box says, I'm curious, do you get thirsty during your streams? I worry that those who consider you a shapeshifter may use the lack of thirst against you. Thank you for a supremely informative stream, Sir Jake. I drank some raw milk during the stream. So I took a few sips while we were streaming. But yeah, I guess I was adequately hydrated before I started the stream, so I wasn't like super thirsty, but I think I took maybe 1 or 2 sips of my milk while I was streaming. And so yeah, that's probably why you didn't see me drinking too much, I guess. But yeah, I guess you know, beings that I'm a shapeshifter, that would also be a good reason why, right? Because everyone knows shapeshifters don't get thirsty. Right? Is that a thing? Shapeshifters don't get thirsty? I don't know. Thank you, Lemming in a shiny metal box. I appreciate the multiple super chats. Thank you for being here. Hopefully you learned something new tonight. Hopefully everyone learned something new tonight. Hopefully everybody enjoyed the stream. Thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight. I will catch you guys in another video or another stream soon. I don't know. Maybe I'll do another stream in another couple days. But if I don't, then I'll catch you next Tuesday. So until next time, this is Jake the Asshole signing out. Thank you to everyone who hung out with me tonight. Thank you for everybody who donated. I will catch all you awesome subs in the next video or the next stream. Take care. Peace out. Good night. Love you all. Talk to you later.